In the year 2077, the virtual game apocalypse became a grim reality, plunging the world into chaos as its order collapsed. The once thriving civilization descended into hellish turmoil. Yet, amidst the devastation, a glimmer of hope emerged. Humans began awakening supernatural abilities tied to their characters in the virtual game. Gamers, once ordinary, now ascended as the new gods of this shattered world. Among them was Ye Xiao, a wealthy playboy and philanthropist. Unlike others who sought power or dominance, Ye Xiao cared little for the world. His sole concern was ensuring the survival of the woman he loved in this chaotic new reality. He spared no expense, pouring his vast fortune into boosting her level, hiring experts to protect her, and even acquiring divine artifacts to strengthen her. His devotion was boundless, and through his efforts, Yanran rose to become a god-tier powerhouse in Dragon Country. However, Yanran's meteoric rise did not go unnoticed. Envy spread like wildfire as people grew jealous of her power, her countless gifts, and most of all, the unwavering devotion of a man willing to sacrifice everything for her. When the day of their long-awaited wedding finally arrived, Yanran made a simple request, an intimate ceremony with just the two of them. Ye Xiao agreed wholeheartedly, overjoyed at the thought of their union. But as he held her in his arms, basking in what he believed was their love, her true intentions were revealed. In a swift, merciless strike, she plunged her hand into his chest, tearing out his heart with her bare hands. Yanran had never cherished his gifts or his love. To her, his generosity was an insult, a constant reminder that others viewed her as someone who relied solely on a man's wealth, rather than her own strength. She despised the way he showered her with treasures, convinced that everything she had achieved was the result of her own hard work. The only person she believed truly understood her struggles was Zhou Hong, her true love. Now that Ye Xiao was gone, she and Hong would take everything that had once belonged to him. It was a pathetic end for Ye Xiao, betrayed by the one he loved most, his kindness seen as nothing more than an unbearable burden. He had never expected such a cruel misunderstanding to lead to his demise. Yet, among all the treasures he had gifted Yanran, Ye Xiao had kept one final trump card for himself. Fueled by his unwillingness to die and his insatiable thirst for revenge, he awakened this hidden power. In that moment, he succeeded in turning back time, returning to a period when he was still courting the ungrateful Yanran. In his hand, he held a card loaded with 200,000 Wen, her monthly allowance. But after everything that had happened, the illusion he once held of her had completely shattered. The rose-colored image he had admired was gone, replaced by the bitter truth. He finally saw her for what she truly was, a condescending manipulator. Her words, once sweet, now dripped with disdain, belittling him as if she were any better. The way she looked at him, as if he were some desperate fool seeking her approval, disgusted him. It was clear now she had never cared about him. She had only ever been interested in his money. Yet, instead of outright rejecting him, she had strung him along, making it seem as though staying with him was an act of generosity on her part, as if she were doing him some grand favor. She acted as though she wasn't after his wealth, all so that others wouldn't see her for what she truly was. A gold-digging, egotistical psycho. Strangely enough, Ye Xiao no longer felt anger. There was no hatred, no resentment, just indifference. He had bigger things to focus on now. He had reincarnated exactly 1 week before the virtual apocalypse began. He had no time to waste on someone like Yanran, so he ended things right then and there. If she was so adamant about not taking his money, then fine. She wouldn't get a single cent from him anymore. This, of course, took her by surprise. But just like before, her delusional mind twisted the situation. She thought this was some kind of act, that he was merely playing hard to get. And just like that, she suddenly changed her mind, reaching out to accept the debit card she had initially rejected. But it was too late for her. Ye Xiao had already moved on. He refused her and told her to leave. Naturally, this made Yanran furious. Instead of backing down, she lashed out, convinced that he was bluffing. But this time, Ye Xiao wasn't having any of it. He decided to retaliate. Since she clearly didn't need anything from him, she didn't need the expensive shoes he had bought for her either. He grabbed the shoes off her feet and tossed them straight into the trash. This act truly set her off. She began ranting, spouting threats and swearing that he would regret this, that he would never see her again. But her outburst only made Ye Xiao smirk. To him, never laying eyes on her again would be a blessing. He had far more important things to deal with than wasting his time on her. The virtual apocalypse beta test was set to begin in 1 week, and during the first 10 minutes, the recharge system would briefly activate. That window of time was crucial, and he needed to prepare well. With this in mind, Ye Xiao called Lin and immediately attempted to sell all his shares for 20 billion yuan at once. Needless to say, this left her completely stunned. She had been itching to buy them for so long, knowing that owning them would mean Ye Xiao was essentially handing the Ye Corporation over to her. Naturally, the thought delighted her, but Ye Xiao couldn't care less about her excitement. He only wanted the money as fast as possible. He needed to gather enough funds before the test began, because in this life, he was going to climb the throne alone and rule the world on his own terms. A week passed, and the Apocalypse game finally opened for beta testers. The window would only last for 3 days before the public version launched. Without wasting a moment, Ye Xiao logged in immediately, heading straight to the character creation screen to pick his class. In his previous life, he remembered a guild that had been completely annihilated by a god-tier beast Tamer leading a dark abyss dragon. Pulling off such a feat alone was nothing short of insane, proving that this was easily one of the most overpowered classes in the game. Now, with an unlimited budget at his disposal, surpassing that legendary Tamer from his past life would be a walk in the park. Without hesitation, he chose to become a Tamer. After fully integrating his body with the class, the most crucial moment arrived. The recharge system he had been waiting for. The option to top up had finally appeared. He wasn't sure why, but it was only available for 10 minutes. Once that time was up, no one would be able to top up again. Given that this game would merge with reality, Ye Xiao went all in, purchasing a staggering 20 billion gold. It was the ultimate investment, and in just 3 days, the value of those coins would multiply tenfold. But just as he completed the transaction, something unexpected happened. A notification popped up, informing him that he had unlocked a unique hidden profession reward. As the first player to recharge over 1 billion, the system had granted him a hidden subclass, the Deity of Wealth. The moment the class was activated, a frog materialized out of thin air and greeted him. At first, Ye Xiao assumed it was some kind of low-level monster there to fight him. But the frog quickly corrected him, taking offense at the mere suggestion. It introduced itself as Ebisu, Ye Xiao's personal wealth mentor, and the 709th god of wealth under training. Xiao found the entire situation too good to be true, which made him deeply skeptical. He was convinced that the toad was nothing more than a scam artist. However, the toad, determined to prove its credibility, decided to demonstrate its worth. It activated Xiao's innate talent, revealing the absurdly overpowered nature of the hidden class he had unlocked. First, all the gold coins Xiao carried would increase by 1% daily. Second, he would no longer lose any gold or items upon death. Third, he now possessed immense luck. Fourth, he gained a +150 boost to charm. Lastly, and most ridiculously, for every 1,000,000 gold he spent, he would gain 1 random attribute point, up to 100 points per day. With this revelation, Xiao immediately understood why this class was hidden, and why the toad was, in fact, the real deal. If the innate abilities were accurate, then with his current wealth, he would be earning 22 million gold per day. That also meant he would gain 22 free attribute points daily. This was completely game-breaking. Without hesitation, Xiao picked up the toad and carried it like a toddler, thrilled by the absurd advantage he had just gained. Naturally, the toad, Ebisu, didn't appreciate being manhandled like a child, but Xiao couldn't care less at this point. He had just hit the jackpot, and it was only natural for him to be excited. Eager to test out his new perks, Xiao quickly set off. In an instant, he was transported to the Flower Plains, a field just outside the city. Since the server had just opened, not many players were around. It seemed most were still creating their characters' typical gamer behavior. This was the perfect opportunity for Xiao to level up quickly. However, hunting wasn't an option just yet. He knew better than anyone that starting as a beast tamer was far more difficult than other classes in the early stages. Taming powerful beasts wasn't even an option, and to make things worse, beast tamers didn't start with a weapon. Still, the class had incredible potential, making the early struggle worth it. If he wanted to grow quickly, he needed a solid strategy to overcome these disadvantages. With that in mind, Xiao decided to head to the nearest village to prepare. But before he could take a single step, his lone presence in the open field attracted some very unwelcome attention. Elite monsters, already at level 5, had locked onto him. With no way to fight back, running was his only option. He and the toad bolted as fast as they could, and after a frantic sprint, they finally made it to the novice village. Unfortunately, being a beast tamer made Xiao stand out, and not in a good way. Everyone knew how weak the class was, so it didn't take long for ridicule to follow. To make matters worse, he had a toad sitting on his shoulder, a weak beast with no combat abilities. People burst out laughing right in his face, but Xiao barely paid them any attention and simply continued on his way. During all of this, the toad suggested that Xiao buy some eggs being sold in the city. However, Xiao wasn't interested. He had a much better idea. There was no way he was settling for an ordinary beast as his first pet. Instead, he had his sights set on a hidden dungeon where a god-level beast egg lay inside a dragon's lair. Unsurprisingly, obtaining something like that wouldn't be easy. First, Xiao made a detour to the Supreme Hall, which immediately startled the toad. Ebisu was convinced Xiao had lost his mind, as only level 100 players and above could hire guards there. But Xiao knew the truth. There was a hidden way for a level 1 like him to enter. He pressed forward, climbing the massive staircase. As expected, the moment he reached the entrance, a level 80 Grand Archmage stood guard, halting him on the spot. The mage informed him that only those with a city lord's recommendation could enter, something Xiao definitely didn't have. However, what Xiao did have was something far more valuable. At first, the Archmage thought the newbie was bluffing, but when Xiao pulled out a massive stack of gold coins, the mage's stern expression melted into a grin. Without a second thought, he bowed deeply and immediately granted Xiao access, not just to the premises, but straight to the VIP room upstairs. Money really did work wonders, even in a world like this. Even the toad couldn't believe what had just happened. In all his years of being a mentor, he had never once expected this to be possible. Turns out, if you had enough money, even a high-level NPC could be bribed into giving you exactly what you wanted. A little while later, they arrived at the VIP room, where high-level guardian golems could be hired, ranging from level 80 to 100. The Supreme Hall truly lived up to its name. The toad couldn't help but think that if Xiao hired one of these, he could easily dominate the novice village. But to his surprise, Xiao wasn't even remotely interested in such low-level golems. If he wanted to conquer a dragon's lair, he needed something far more powerful. As if on cue, an overseer appeared just in time. Much like the Archmage at the entrance, the moment he laid eyes on Xiao, he was visibly stunned. A low-level player standing in the Supreme Hall was shocking enough. But what truly left him speechless was the fact that this newbie was actually trying to hire a divine-level golem. Even among the elite, divine-level golems were incredibly rare. So rare that the overseer openly questioned how one could even be available for hire in the first place. Besides, just looking at Xiao's level, hiring a level 80 guardian would already be overkill. There was no way he could afford a divine-level golem at least. That's what the overseer thought. That was until Xiao casually claimed he'd pay 1 billion gold per day. For a moment, the overseer stood frozen. The sheer absurdity of the offer took a moment to sink in. But once it did, he quickly turned away, trying and failing to hide his excitement. While they couldn't get him a divine-level golem, the overseer just so happened to know of a divine-level spellcaster who might be able to help instead. The mere mention of this caught the toad completely off guard. Spellcasters were a hidden class, incredibly rare and ridiculously powerful. Unlike golems, which specialized in brute force, spellcasters were versatile, excelling in offense, defense, and protection. Hiring one would be an insanely good move, but the overseer wasn't stupid. Before summoning the spellcaster, he needed to confirm that Xiao actually had 1 billion gold to back up his claim. As one might expect, Xiao understood. He offered to sign a contract to prove it, prompting the overseer to immediately whip out the papers. Xiao signed on the spot, and just like that, the deal was sealed. As promised, the divine-level spellcaster was summoned. Her name was Dolores, and just as Xiao had hoped, her level was so high that he couldn't even view her details. A complete mystery, except for one fact. For the next 24 hours, she would follow his every command and complete it. Dolores was confident because, from her perspective, this was nothing more than an easy payday. Whatever task this novice had for her, it would be simple. Surely he just wanted her to deal with some low-level dungeons near the novice village, right? But Xiao wasn't about to ruin the fun just yet. He decided to keep quiet about his actual plan. She would find out exactly which dungeon he wanted her to clear once he reached level 10. With that cleared up, they rushed straight to the Flower Plains and made quick work of the goblins that had been chasing him earlier. Just as the spellcaster had claimed, it was so easy for her that she didn't even break a sweat. If anything, she turned them into goblin barbecue just for fun. Thanks to that, Xiao easily shot up to level 10, earning himself 10 attribute points. But that wasn't all. The system rewarded him with another 10 points for being the first player on his local server to reach this level, plus a whopping 50 more for being the first worldwide. On top of that, he unlocked the Speed Ascender title, making his achievement even crazier. This was completely unexpected. After all, the highest level among other players wasn't even beyond 5. Naturally, the system made sure to announce his insane achievement to everyone. With someone officially hitting level 10, the level leaderboard was finally unlocked. As expected, players all over the game lost their minds. Some refused to believe it, thinking it had to be a game master running some kind of test. Meanwhile, others were already plotting ways to track him down, hoping to cling to his fame and ride the wave to boost themselves. But Xiao couldn't care less. He was just thrilled about the absurd amount of attribute points he had racked up in a single day. With that, he figured it was about time to head to their real destination, the dragon's lair. Meanwhile, a man clad in a white robe was working tirelessly, pushing himself harder than anyone else. Despite his relentless efforts, he was drenched in sweat and had only reached level 3. This was baffling, especially since someone else had already achieved level 10 the moment they logged in. The man in the white robe had been hunting elite monsters non-stop, barely pausing to catch his breath, yet his progress paled in comparison. It made no sense to him. He suspected some kind of exploit or trick was at play. But instead of feeling discouraged, he saw this mysterious player, Xiao, as his new rival, someone he was determined to surpass, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Xiao had already ventured into Whispering Valley, where the dragon's lair was hidden. Thanks to his prior knowledge, he had no trouble locating the magical rock required to reveal the entrance. As soon as he infused the rock with mana, the ground trembled violently before shattering apart, unveiling a massive entrance that emerged from below. Even the spellcaster accompanying him was stunned, not only by Xiao's familiarity with the lair, but also by the overwhelming aura radiating from within. It was clear that a powerful dragon resided there, and just sensing its presence from the entrance made her hesitate. Confronting such a creature alone was far beyond her comfort zone. Xiao understood her apprehension. Dragons were notoriously difficult to deal with, but that was precisely why he had come. He urged her to at least scout the area and assess the situation before making any decisions. Reluctantly, she agreed. As they ventured deeper into the lair, Xiao explained his motivation for exploring the cave. Years ago, a level 100 berserker had allegedly stumbled upon the lair by accident and claimed to have found a rare dragon egg inside. However, no one believed him, and when he ventured in alone, he never returned. Xiao had purchased battle footage of the berserker's expedition at a high price, which was how he knew about the egg. Unfortunately, this revelation only heightened the spellcaster's anxiety. Stealing a dragon egg wasn't just challenging, it was practically suicidal. The presence of an egg meant a dragon was undoubtedly nearby. Sure enough, their fears were confirmed. A massive dragon lay curled up atop a mountain of treasure, its scales glinting like polished metal in the dim light. The sheer amount of wealth beneath it was staggering. But the spellcaster didn't even consider taking a single coin knot with a tier 5 radiant dragon guarding it. This was a nightmare scenario. Even a tier 3 dragon could annihilate an entire guild. But a tier 5 dragon was among the most formidable creatures in existence. Their odds of survival were less than 1%. Yet for Xiao, the higher the stakes, the greater the rewards. He was undeterred, even exhilarated by the challenge. His determination to secure the dragon egg was unwavering. Unfortunately, the spellcaster didn't share his enthusiasm. No amount of money seemed worth the risk, until Xiao tripled his offer. At that point, she had a sudden change of heart. Xiao clarified that he wasn't asking her to kill the dragon, only to buy him enough time to steal the egg. Reluctantly, she agreed, but she made it clear that if they were going through with this, she would hold nothing back. As soon as they made their move, the spellcaster buffed their stats, doubling their capabilities in an instant. Without hesitation, she unleashed her most mana-consuming skill, summoning a storm of ice arrows that rained down on the dragon, piercing its thick scales. Seizing the opportunity, Xiao rushed toward the egg. However, the moment he touched it, he realized it was far heavier than anticipated. Moving, it was taking too much time, giving the dragon ample opportunity to notice their slow escape. Luckily, the spellcaster intervened, holding the dragon back with an ice wall while assisting Xiao with the egg. But their efforts were barely enough. The dragon began charging its king's breath, a devastating attack. Realizing the danger, they immediately buffed themselves with agility and bolted for the exit. Just as they crossed the cave's threshold, the connection between the entrance and the lair severed, preventing the dragon from pursuing them. They had successfully secured the egg. If their assumptions were correct, this wasn't just any dragon egg, it could hatch into a tier 5 dragon, making all of Xiao's expenses worthwhile. Speaking of expenses, the spellcaster didn't forget about her payment, and promptly reminded Xiao of their agreement. He assured her she would be paid in full, and to his surprise, her favorability toward him increased by 60 points. While this was unexpected, Xiao had more pressing matters to attend to. He needed to contract the beast. Placing his hand on the egg, he barely had a second to react before cracks spread across its surface. In an instant, the egg hatched. However, what emerged was not what they had anticipated. The dragon inside looked entirely different from the radiant dragon they had just encountered. Its coloration was off, leaving them momentarily puzzled. Could it be some lesser kind of dragon? The moment they checked its stats, they realized just how wrong they had been. What stood before them was no ordinary creature. It was a mythical tier Azure Sky Dragon with a base attribute of 500. This dragon wasn't just strong, it was supreme. As the highest-ranking dragon species, it held a 50% advantage over all other dragon types. It dealt 50% more damage while taking 50% less. Additionally, due to its mythical status, it inflicted an extra 30% damage to creatures below its tier, and received 30% less damage from them. But that wasn't even the most impressive part. This little dragon already possessed 3 active skills, far surpassing what other beasts started with. Naturally, Xiao was absolutely delighted. Without wasting any time, he decided to name the dragon. Given its color, he settled on Little Gray. Among everyone present, the toad felt the most relieved. Now that Xiao had a dragon, the toad wouldn't be mistaken for a pet anymore. He even voiced this thought aloud, which immediately drew Xiao's attention, not just to the toad, but to the badge it was holding. The toad had no intention of handing it over. After all, he had looted it from the dragon's nest entirely on his own. As far as he was concerned, it was a case of finders keepers. However, Xiao's curiosity got the better of him, and he took the badge anyway. The moment he did, the spellcaster, who clearly had far more experience, recognized it instantly. This wasn't just some random trinket, it was a calamity tier mark of ferocity, and its stats were as insane as its tier suggested. The bearer of this badge automatically triggered critical hits on every single skill. On top of that, it granted an additional +20 base crit chance and 100% crit damage. But the real game changer was its unique skill, Ferocious Massacre. This skill dealt 1000% of the user's mana as true damage and had an insanely high crit chance. The only thing preventing it from being completely broken was its 10-day cooldown. The toad immediately tried to snatch the badge back, but let's be honest, he didn't even need it. Considering he was the reason they had gotten caught in the first place, having tripped over a piece of armor, the emblem might as well count as compensation for his blunder. The toad couldn't argue with that logic, so Xiao equipped it without further resistance. The instant he did, a hidden questline was unlocked, requiring him to find the Fang of Ferocity. Just like before, the spellcaster knew exactly what that was. A god-tier assassin dagger forged from the fangs of an abyssal beast. This wasn't just any weapon. It was one of the most explosive, high-damage weapons in existence. Naturally, Xiao was thrilled by the prospect, but there was one major problem. To obtain it, he had to travel to the Abyss continent. That was a long and arduous journey, one he didn't have time for just yet. Besides, the game was still in beta testing, and he had already hit the time limit. For now, he had no choice but to put his plans for the Abyss continent on hold and log out. Before doing so, he bid farewell to the Peachy Sister, and finally took a well-earned break. The next day arrived, and the chaos surrounding the apocalypse had only worsened, and not in a good way. Players quickly realized just how brutal the leveling system was. No matter how hard they grinded, most of them barely scraped their way to level 2 after an entire day of non-stop effort, dying countless times in the process. Meanwhile, a guy named Ye Xiao had already reached level 10. Naturally, this fueled suspicions that he was cheating. But things took an even darker turn when some players began experiencing real-world physical symptoms after logging out. What started as exhaustion and dizziness quickly escalated to full-blown organ failure, landing several players in the hospital. In response, multiple nations moved to ban the game entirely. Xiao couldn't help but feel pity for them, knowing that when the game inevitably merged with reality, those banning it now would suffer the most. Before he could dwell on that thought, his phone rang. He picked it up and checked the voicemail. It was from Yanren, who had the audacity to order him to go to the hospital and pay the bills for her so-called friend Zhou Hong, who had fallen ill. Apparently, this was her idea of forgiving him for the stunt he had pulled the other day. The sheer entitlement made his blood boil. Not at her, but at himself, because he had forgotten to block her. Without wasting another second, he corrected that mistake. Meanwhile, Zhou Hong and Yanran truly believed Xiao would show up, thinking he still loved Yanran as he once had. But reality hit them hard when no Ye Xiao arrived. Instead, the doctor informed them that they were being discharged early. The hospital was overwhelmed with patients suffering from organ failure due to the apocalypse game. And since they weren't VIPs, they were asked to leave immediately and settle their bill. Evidently, they had no say in the matter. To Zhou Hong's surprise, Yanran didn't even have the monthly allowance Xiao usually gave her. This made him panic a little, as the bill was no small amount. He told Yanran to send Xiao another message, hoping to seduce him into coughing up some money. After all, Zhou Hong needed that cash. He was planning to start a game studio centered around the Apocalypse game. In other words, Zhou Hong was using Yanran as a pawn to get his hands on Xiao's money. Even though she was unwilling, she still did what he asked. She loved him too much, blindly following his every word, believing Zhou was the only one who truly understood her. In reality, it was the other way around. But her stupidity didn't excuse her from being manipulative, as she was still willing to exploit a man's genuine love for profit. Now, all they could do was wait for Xiao to show up and pay their bill. Unfortunately for them, Xiao didn't care anymore. He was simply enjoying his well-timed rest. As soon as the timer was up and he could play again, he got up without hesitation and entered the game. To his surprise, despite the bad publicity and the countless players getting injured in real life, the number of players had skyrocketed. However, because of his high level, he immediately stood out inside the city. A bunch of players desperately tried to cling to him, hoping to squeeze out the secret behind his rapid progression. This prompted Xiao to get the hell out of there, escaping the delusional horde of players chasing after him. Thanks to his extraordinary stats, Xiao effortlessly outran the persistent newbies who had been trailing him. He slipped into a zone designated for level 10 players, a place where only seasoned adventurers could survive. This move finally deterred the inexperienced players, who stayed in their lane and stopped following him. Relieved, Xiao took a moment to breathe before continuing his journey. Shortly after, he arrived at the trial grounds, where a stoic knight stood guard. Without hesitation, Xiao requested to begin the trial. However, the guard, aware of the challenge's difficulty, immediately questioned the absence of his team. Xiao casually revealed that he intended to tackle the trial solo, a decision the guard found reckless, if not outright ridiculous. Nevertheless, the guard chose not to intervene, as it was not his responsibility to stop him. With that, Xiao confidently stepped into the center of the trial circle, ready to begin. Before the trial could commence, Xiao was presented with 5 difficulty options, ranging from normal to abyss. Without a moment's hesitation, he selected the hardest difficulty, Abyss. This choice caused the usually composed guard, who had undoubtedly witnessed countless foolish decisions in his time, to visibly flinch. Even by reckless standards, this decision seemed beyond foolish. Xiao, however, remained calm and composed. Having played similar games before, he knew exactly what to expect from the trial. More importantly, he was confident that his god-tier pet, the Green Dragon, would be more than capable of handling the challenge. As predicted, a level 10 savage snow wolf appeared, boasting an intimidating 5,000 health. However, this was no match for Xiao's pet. With a single dragon's breath, Greenie reduced the wolf's health by half. A few more melee strikes followed, and it became clear that the fight was as good as over. Just when victory seemed inevitable, the wolf unleashed its trump card, going berserk in a desperate last-ditch attempt to turn the tide. Unfortunately for the wolf, Greenie was not about to let that happen. With a powerful dragon's roar, the pet stunned the wolf, leaving it vulnerable to a final decisive strike. In an instant, the wolf collapsed, defeated. With the victory, Greenie gained a massive chunk of experience, instantly leveling up to level 4. Xiao was thrilled by this development, as each level up granted an additional 50 points to all stats. To make things even better, Greenie unlocked a new skill called Dragon Fangs, an ability that silenced magic from the 2 nearest enemies for 5 seconds, an incredibly useful effect in battle. The rewards didn't end there. The defeated wolf dropped valuable loot, a wolf bow and a dagger, both dark gold items. This was an extraordinary find, far superior to anything Xiao had obtained in his past life. It seemed his luck was significantly influencing the quality of the drops. However, Xiao's moment of celebration was short-lived. Another mutant beast emerged, this time a level 10 abyssal tiger. Stronger than the wolf by a considerable margin, the tiger boasted 8,000 health and the added threat of being a demonized beast. Undeterred, Xiao and Greenie dove straight into the fight. This time, however, the battle was not as easy as the previous one. The battle had dragged on for a grueling half an hour, and by the end of it, their legs felt as though they were on the verge of giving out. Despite the exhaustion, the struggle had been worth it. The rewards they secured more than compensated for the effort, as they managed to acquire 2 more dark gold items, a sword and a shield. Naturally, the Toad was already contemplating a return to town to sell their newly acquired loot. However, Xiao had other plans. There was still one more challenge ahead, the trial boss. He had no intention of leaving without defeating it. As one might expect, the Toad immediately questioned Xiao's sanity. While they had successfully taken down numerous monsters, a boss was an entirely different matter. Greenie, Xiao's pet, was only level 7, and the Toad seriously doubted its ability to handle such a formidable opponent. Xiao, however, harbored no such doubts. Not even a little. He had complete faith in Greeny's abilities. In his past life, the final boss of the Abyss trial had been a Lord-tier beast. Given that Greeny had already defeated 2 demonized monsters without breaking a sweat, Xiao was confident this challenge would be no different. With unwavering confidence, Xiao stepped into the Abyss, assuring the Toad that he would clear the trial effortlessly. The Toad, however, remained skeptical, especially as system notifications continuously popped up, warning them to leave. These warnings did little to ease the Toad's nerves, but there was nothing he could do to dissuade Xiao. Xiao was determined to complete the trial. If he wanted to rise to the top, hesitation was not an option. He fully embraced the Abyss, and the Abyss, in turn, seemed to acknowledge his presence. Emerging from the shadows was their final opponent, the Abyss Wanderer. It was far more formidable than Xiao had anticipated. This was no mere Lord-tier boss. It was King-tier, boasting 5,000 spirit points. A pure magic-based class, the Abyss Wanderer had one significant handicap: 0 strength and 0 agility. This made it ridiculously slow. However, if even a single one of its attacks landed, Xiao would be finished. Despite the danger, Xiao saw an opportunity in this information and immediately put it to his advantage. He commanded Greeny to attack using only fire breath while constantly repositioning. If the boss was too slow to react, they could whittle down its health from a safe distance. As Xiao had predicted, the Abyss Wanderer was painfully slow. It barely reacted, standing motionless like an ancient statue as Greeny relentlessly torched it. The assault continued without much trouble, but then, without warning, the boss shifted its focus entirely onto Xiao. Raising its staff high, it unleashed an endless barrage of magical strikes. The situation grew increasingly tense, but Xiao's overall stats allowed him to dodge each attack by the narrowest of margins. This was enough, as the boss's focus on Xiao gave Greeny a free opening. Seizing the opportunity, Greeny intensified its fire breath, going full auto and rapidly depleting the Wanderer's health. The battle became a test of endurance. Whoever tired out first would determine the winner. Fortunately, the Abyss Wanderer was the first to fall, just moments before Xiao's stamina ran out. It had been an alarmingly close call. So close, in fact, that the Toad immediately declared that if Xiao ever planned to attempt something so reckless again, he should count him out. However, pushing through such difficulty came with its rewards. Greeny leveled up to 10, and as the first player to complete the trial, Xiao received a +5 boost to all his attributes. Additionally, there were the spoils from defeating a King-tier boss. Meanwhile, the system took its time to announce Xiao's accomplishment. As the first player to complete an Abyss trial, he was awarded the legendary title, Abyss Emissary. This announcement instantly captured the attention of every player. It was the second time Ye Xiao's name had appeared on the leaderboard, further fueling curiosity about his identity. Some players even began investigating him, and it didn't take long for them to discover that he was from the Jiangcheng area. This revelation prompted a group to send someone to investigate him, not only to recruit him, but also to uncover his secrets. At the same time, Zhou Hong had finally logged into the game with Yanran. Both of them saw the announcement. Noticing that this player hailed from the same newbie village as them, Zhou Hong began contemplating the idea of teaming up with him. If they could pull it off, they might end up even wealthier than Ye Xiao himself. As usual, Yanran, who knew little about the game's mechanics, was skeptical. How could a game possibly generate such significant profit? Zhou Hong, however, assured her that it was possible. Still, he thought it wouldn't hurt to ask Ye Xiao for a little financial boost to get them started. Yanran, though, had already heard enough about Ye Xiao for one day, and had no patience for further discussion. It was rare for her and Zhou Hong to have time alone together. Since she had never played a game before, she eagerly urged him to start teaching her. With that, they decided to focus on leveling up first. Meanwhile, Ye Xiao looted the boss, only to find a fragment. It was hardly the reward he had hoped for, but something from an abyss couldn't be useless, especially from a boss. Moreover, he had never seen such an item in his previous life, so its importance had to be greater than it appeared. It seemed like he should appraise it when he got the chance. For now, however, leaving the beginner's village and heading to the main city was far more important. With that in mind, he left the trial, surprising the knight guarding the place. Zhao, however, didn't have time to listen to the man's praises, so he simply ordered him to connect him to the main city. Since he had cleared the trial, he was granted permission, and a portal was opened for him right then and there. Before he stepped through, the guard handed him a guide token, allowing him to freely enter or leave the main city whenever he wanted. Additionally, because he had cleared an abyss-level trial, he was also entitled to an epic item, the Badge of Valor. proof that he had conquered an Inferno Abyss rank dungeon. With the added enhancements, his excitement skyrocketed. With this, he stepped into the main city in high spirits, ready for whatever lay ahead. However, since he was the first one to enter this place, it was much quieter compared to his previous life. Back then, the area had been packed with over 100 players, but now it felt like a ghost town. Still, that worked in his favor. At least no clueless newbies would come pestering him. Peacefully, he proceeded with his plan to find Beastmaster Goodle. As one might guess, this made the Toad question him. After all, Xiao was already a beast tamer, so why would he need to see another one? Xiao simply laughed, knowing the answer would become clear soon enough. A little while later, he found Goodle sitting outside a building. As soon as Xiao approached, the old man dismissed him outright, clearly not wanting to be bothered. His expression alone made it obvious that he thought Xiao was just another clueless beginner. Yet, the instant Xiao mentioned wanting to transfer to the hidden class, Beast Whisperer, Goodle's expression twisted, not in shock, but in fury, as if he had just been insulted. He clearly thought Xiao was underestimating the Beast Tamer profession, as if anyone could just walk up and ask to become a Beast Whisperer. If that was what Xiao thought, then he was greatly mistaken. To even qualify, Goodle demanded that Xiao go to the outskirts and bring back 100 demon wolf eyes, a test designed to weed out the unworthy. However, there was no way Xiao was wasting his time slaughtering 100 elite monsters just to prove himself. He had something much better to offer the old man, and no, it wasn't money this time. Instead, he pulled out the badge of valor, and that was all it took. The instant Goodle laid eyes on the badge, his entire demeanor shifted. One moment, he was lounging in his chair, indifferent and dismissive. The next, he was on his feet, eyes wide in disbelief. Clearing an Inferno Abyss trial this early was already shocking. But doing it solo? That was unheard of. Just like that, the old man turned into his biggest fan, showering Xiao with praise and going on about how he had sensed his greatness from the moment he saw him. Xiao, however, wasn't about to let that slide. He immediately called out Goodle's hypocrisy, reminding him how he had just called him useless a moment ago. This had Goodle sweating bullets, though he still tried to play it cool. What was done was done. He could only act polite now to make up for it. Before granting the job change, however, Goodle had one more request. He wanted to see Xiao's beast. He was clearly curious about how Xiao had managed to clear the trial alone. The second Greenie appeared, the answer became obvious. A god-tier beast like this? No wonder Xiao had crushed an Inferno Abyss trial on his own. Now, the old man regarded Xiao with a bit more respect, given that even he had never expected to witness a god-tier beast firsthand. However, he had some bad news for Xiao. He likely wouldn't be able to transfer to the Beast Whisperer class. A class like that simply wasn't worthy of a god-tier beast. Instead, Goodle decided to introduce Xiao to the Royal Chief Beast Tamer. Confident that this man would have the answers Xiao was looking for, he handed him a referral letter along with an address. With this, Xiao was thrilled by how things were turning out. However, there was a slight problem. The Royal Chief Beast Tamer resided in the Royal City, a place nowhere near his current location. Besides, Xiao had other things to take care of first, so he turned his focus on completing another hidden quest. Making a little detour, he headed toward a lady surrounded by guards. This was Lady Shirley, the widow of the former city lord, a wealthy and stunning woman. Xiao, however, wasn't there for romance. He was there for the hidden quest. Making his way over, he showed the proper respect and spoke the lines that would trigger the quest, commenting on how sorrowful she looked. With that, Lady Shirley explained that she had lost a personal item, and if Xiao could retrieve it, she would be deeply grateful. This immediately activated the hidden quest, tasking him with finding a beautiful flower. Obviously, this left the Toad completely stunned, making him wonder just how Xiao even knew about such an obscure hidden quest in the first place. Xiao ignored the Toad and continued his quest for the flower, wandering around town. His actions only deepened the Toad's confusion. After all, shouldn't a flower be found in a garden or somewhere outside the city? Thankfully, that question was soon answered, when Xiao explained that this wasn't just any ordinary flower. It wasn't something that could be found growing in the wild. Instead, it could only be obtained from a special place, the tool shop. At first, the Toad thought Xiao was joking, but Xiao had no time for jokes. He walked straight into the shop and purchased a special item called a treasure box. Not just any treasure box, but the most expensive one, costing 10,000 gold each. Xiao knew that buying only one box wouldn't be enough. He needed all of them. As expected, the items he received from the boxes were mostly useless, things he would never need in the first place. Half an hour later, after opening box after box, there was still no sign of the beautiful flower. only one box remained. Despite this, Xiao never lost hope. Based on his past life experience, he knew the flower was guaranteed to appear as long as he bought every last treasure box. Sure enough, when he opened the final one, there it was, the beautiful flower. However, its description wasn't nearly as impressive as its appearance. If Xiao hadn't already known its true purpose, he might have thought it was just another useless item like all the others. Meanwhile, Lady Shirley was enjoying her morning bath, idly wondering if anyone would ever find her precious flower. Just then, one of her maids burst into the room, barely catching her breath as she reported that a man had arrived carrying the very flower Lady Shirley had been seeking. The news hit her so hard that for a moment, she completely forgot she was still in the bath. Thankfully, her maid had the sense to remind her. As soon as Lady Shirley got dressed, she wasted no time marching straight to meet the man, eager to see if he was bluffing. To her surprise, he really did have the treasure she had been searching for all this time. After years of fruitless searching, she couldn't believe someone had actually found it. Overcome with gratitude, she offered him anything he desired. Money, rare artifacts, whatever he wanted. But Xiao shut that down immediately. He wasn't interested in any of it. To Lady Shirley, his refusal could only mean one thing. Still, she wasn't the type to go back on her word. After promising to give him everything, she concluded that the only thing left to offer was herself. It was a tempting offer, but Xiao was a man of focus. He already had something else in mind, and it definitely wasn't pursuing a romantic encounter. Instead, he had a much more practical request: citizenship status. Naturally, this delighted Lady Shirley. Her previous offer had been a test, and the fact that he didn't jump at the chance only raised her favorability toward him. Since granting citizenship to a player was an easy task for someone of her status, she immediately made the arrangements. It was then that Xiao brought up a related request. He wanted to purchase property in Windleaf City and settle down there. Lady Shirley had no issue with this, as it was naturally tied to his new citizenship. However, what puzzled her was his specific choice of location: the West District, a place that wasn't exactly thriving. Assuming he didn't know any better, she warned him about the disadvantages of the area. But Xiao wasn't clueless, far from it. He already knew about the West District's current state and had a personal reason for wanting that land. Understanding this, Lady Shirley chose not to pry any further. The Toad, however, was another story. As a business counselor, he was completely against the decision. He believed buying property in a more prosperous district would benefit them far more. But Xiao just laughed. Unlike most people, he knew what the future held. Soon, Windleaf City would come under attack by strange creatures. The battle would be devastating, so much so that even the current city lord would fall. The East District, one of the most developed areas, would be hit the hardest, suffering massive destruction. In contrast, the West District, being sparsely populated, would attract fewer monsters and take minimal damage. After the dust settled, it would end up becoming the most functional and valuable part of Windleaf City. Xiao intended to claim it before anyone else realized what was coming. With the assistance of the Lady Shirley, Xiao was able to leverage her connections to secure a significant deal. Through her influence, he acquired 340 residential units and 184 commercial units, all for a total of 1.2 billion gold coins. Given Xiao's immense wealth, the price caught him off guard. Not because it was expensive, but because it was astonishingly cheap for the number of units he obtained. It felt like daylight robbery to him. Without hesitation, Xiao opted to pay the entire sum up front, bypassing any payment plans or installments. Once the transaction was complete, Shirley handed Xiao his citizenship documents. To his surprise, they were not for Windleaf City, but rather a first-class citizenship of the Dragon Phoenix Empire. Even the Toad, who was usually quick with words, was left speechless. First-class citizenship in the Empire was something even powerful warlords struggled to attain. Yet Xiao held it in his hands as if it were a trivial giveaway. This revelation led him to one conclusion. Shirley was not merely well-connected. She had royal blood. Indeed, Shirley confirmed her royal lineage, which explained her noble demeanor and effortless grace. Xiao finally understood why she carried herself with such poise. Rather than feeling intimidated, he saw this as an opportunity. Without wasting any time, he inquired if she knew the royal beast Tamer. As it turned out, the royal beast Tamer was her uncle, which worked perfectly for Xiao, as he had an important matter to discuss with him regarding his mission. Fortunately for Xiao, Shirley seemed to have taken a liking to him. Not only was she willing to contact her uncle on his behalf, but she also began showing clear favoritism. Xiao, ever the opportunist, quickly capitalized on the situation. In a smooth move, He took her hand and placed a light kiss on it, causing her royal cheeks to blush. Soon after, she insisted that he call her by her first name, Sophia, a clear indication of her growing fondness for him. However, Xiao was a busy man and had no time to be sidetracked by romantic pursuits, no matter how tempting they might be. After securing his business dealings, he went his separate way. Meanwhile, his achievements were broadcasted to all players, cementing his status as the first to obtain first-class citizenship in the Dragon Phoenix Empire. This accomplishment unlocked the prestige ranking system. Additionally, as the first player to acquire real estate, he triggered the activation of the regional housing system. These feats alone were impressive, but the system further rewarded him by leveling him up to level 11 and increasing his daily game time limit by an extra hour. This development left other players utterly stunned. An extra hour of game time was a massive advantage, and it highlighted just how realistic and immersive the game could be. For many players, it was a harsh reminder of their struggles. While they were already nobodies in real life, they now had to contend with the fact that some players, like Xiao, were far ahead in status within the game as well. It was a classic case of the rich getting richer, while others struggled to make ends meet. The developers' intentions remained a mystery, as no one actually knew who they were. Meanwhile, news of Xiao's extraordinary achievements reached Zhou Hong and Yanran. However, their reaction was far from celebratory. The name Knight Xiao made them skeptical, though they reasoned that Xiao was a common name, and likely not the person they knew. After all, the Xiao they were familiar with wasn't the type to play such games. Still, they couldn't help but wonder how different their situation might be if they had a top player like Knight Xiao leading them. Perhaps they would already be level 5 instead of struggling to defeat a single monster. This thought, predictably, irritated their current teammates, especially when Yanran openly complained about their lack of progress, despite contributing little herself. Her audacity sparked immediate tension within the group. Zhou Hong quickly stepped in to smooth things over, apologizing on Yanran's behalf. However, Yanran, who often acted as though everyone owed her something, refused to back down. Instead, she became even more enraged and stormed off. Her teammates didn't let her leave without calling her out, pointing out that her looks didn't give her the right to act like a spoiled princess. With Yanran gone, Zhou Hong was left frustrated. How were they supposed to level up with just the two of them? Yanran, however, shot back at him, accusing the group of insulting her and completely ignoring her own role in causing the conflict. She also criticized Zhou Hong for not defending her, further escalating the tension. Not wanting to waste time on unnecessary drama, Zhou Hong apologized and changed the subject. He suggested they try contacting the pro player Knight Xiao to team up with them. Initially, Yanran was vehemently against the idea, but after persistent pleading from Zhou Hong, she reluctantly agreed. However, as it was getting late, she decided to deal with the matter another time. Later, after logging off, Zhou Hong felt relieved that she had gone along with the plan. The two exchanged their goodbyes and quickly logged out of the game. However, before Yanran went to sleep, she decided to contact Ye Xiao one more time. She was still convinced that he was merely playing hard to get. In her message, she mentioned that they were playing Apocalypse and invited him to join them, hoping he could help her and Zhou Hong level up. As usual, she added a little incentive, suggesting that if he could get her onto the rankings, she might even consider being his girlfriend. In her mind, this was an incredibly generous offer. 5 minutes passed, and there was still no reply from Ye Xiao, which struck her as odd. Growing curious, she checked the message again, only to discover that he had deleted her from his friend list. Instantly, irritation flared up, and she began cursing him out loud, swearing that she would never forgive him, not even if he knelt and begged. Of course, it was highly unlikely that Ye Xiao would ever do something like that. Meanwhile, Ye Xiao was focused on his own business, immersed in the game. He was making his way to a premium appraisal shop that exclusively handled silver-grade items or higher. It was the perfect place to have his dark gold items evaluated. However, the moment he presented his items, the attendant's eyes widened in surprise. It was rare for anyone to bring in such high-tier items. The attendant quickly explained that the shop owner was the only one who could guarantee a successful appraisal of dark gold items. And unfortunately, the owner wasn't available at the moment. Ye Xiao immediately saw through the act, recognizing it as a classic sales tactic. Uninterested in playing along, he cut the attendant off, demanding that he drop the nonsense and get to the point. Reluctantly, the attendant revealed that he was a gold-tier appraiser himself, boasting an 80% success rate. However, for dark gold items, he would need 100 gold coins per item to ensure a perfect appraisal. Ye Xiao knew this was an inflated price, as the actual cost was likely half that amount. But to him, 100 gold coins were trivial. His time was far more valuable, so without hesitation, he dropped the money on the counter and instructed the attendant to begin. He also mentioned that he had several more items lined up for appraisal. As soon as the attendant saw the sheer number of high-tier items Ye Xiao possessed, he realized he was dealing with someone extremely wealthy. There was no room for delays or excuses. Without another word, he got to work. The very first item he appraised already had insane attributes. But what shocked him even more was Ye Xiao's reaction. The man stood there completely unfazed, as if he had seen better. Realizing that stalling or hyping up the process wouldn't impress his customer, the attendant swallowed his surprise and continued the appraisals as quickly as possible. A few moments later, Xiao stepped out of the store with a smirk, feeling exceptionally pleased with himself. Every piece of equipment he had appraised turned out to be top tier, and he had even equipped some of it, significantly boosting his overall attributes. Even the toad had to admit that Xiao was now strong enough to stand on his own, without relying entirely on his beast. However, Xiao wasn't done upgrading himself just yet. He needed more power, and since Sophia still hadn't brought any news about her uncle's thoughts, he decided to head straight to Grey Mist Valley to level up. As soon as Xiao set foot in Grey Mist Valley, the toad shivered. The place wasn't just ominous, it looked like a death trap. The monsters lurking there were already at level 20, more than enough to send most players running in the opposite direction. To make matters worse, the monsters didn't come one at a time, but in groups. Despite this, Xiao remained unfazed, confident that he could take them on, even if they were over-leveled. Just as he had expected, Greenie alone was enough to handle them, burning through the packs with nothing but its fire breath, and killing them in a single hit. Each kill racked up 240 experience points. And the best part was that these high-level monsters automatically charged at them, meaning Xiao didn't even need to do much. He simply kicked back and let Greenie handle the horde of hyenas. Sure enough, the monsters kept rushing in, only to be wiped out instantly. With this setup, 2 hours flew by, and just like that, Xiao had leveled up to 12. Even Greenie leveled up alongside him. At this rate, it wouldn't take more than a few days to hit level 20. As Xiao walked over to the pile of monster corpses, something caught his eye, an item drop. Picking it up, he was surprised to see it was a fireball technique. Even though he was a beastmaster, having extra skills could only make him stronger, so he wasted no time and used it immediately. As soon as the skill integrated with him, Xiao quickly fired off a shot at the nearest beast he could find. However, as expected, his class compatibility wasn't ideal. Even with his high stats, the damage was underwhelming to say the least, which made the toad burst out laughing. Finally, the toad felt vindicated. Learning Fireball had indeed been a waste, at least in its current state. But Xiao knew better. Even if the skill was weak now, once he leveled up its proficiency, the destructive power would become insane. When that happened, the toad would be the one left speechless. However, that would have to wait. Xiao's trial period had ended, meaning he was about to be forcefully logged out. With that, the third day of the beta test came to a close. But now, the real game was about to begin. Everyone would be dragged into this insanely dangerous world, whether they were ready or not. A few hours later, the event Xiao had been waiting for finally happened. The world began to merge with the game. Dark clouds formed overhead, and lightning crashed down, splitting the sky apart. As the strikes descended, system interfaces started popping up in front of everyone, including those who had never even touched the game before. Before they could even process what was happening, they were dragged straight into the game known as Apocalypse. It didn't matter what they had been doing, whether they were taking a bath, partying, or just minding their own business. No one was spared. Even Yanran and Zhou Hong were transported. Unlike the others, Zhou Hong didn't panic. If anything, he saw this as a golden opportunity. His instincts had been right all along. This game wasn't just some virtual playground. It was a path to real wealth. Being part of the beta test put him ahead of those who had never played before. But even then, his mind wasn't just on leveling up. He was still thinking about Ye Xiao's money. So naturally, he turned to Yanran, hoping she might have some answers. However, this only pissed her off. After all, Ye Xiao had been ignoring her for days. But she didn't need him anyway. She had a better plan. If Ye Xiao wouldn't acknowledge her, then she would just contact Master Night Xiao instead. She didn't know him personally yet, but with her looks, she was certain no man could resist her charm. She was confident they'd be able to recruit Master Night Xiao into their party. However, not everyone was as optimistic as them. For most players, this was a nightmare. There was no option to log out, no way to escape, and worst of all, player locations were linked to their real-world locations. That meant some poor souls got dropped straight into monster-infested zones with no choice but to fight for their lives. And if they died, it was permanent. As this terrifying reality sank in, players started moving with caution, sticking together whenever possible. But even as fear spread, another question kept popping up in their minds. Who had transported them here? And more importantly, did Ye Xiao know how to quit the game? Really, who could blame them for wondering? Among all the beta testers, Ye Xiao was the only one who had skyrocketed in level so fast, leaving everyone else in the dust. If anyone knew the secrets of this world, it had to be him. Some even started whispering that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't just a player. Perhaps he was one of the developers. With that rumor spreading like wildfire, everyone wanted to find Ye Xiao. Even the top guild leader was desperate to track him down. But that was easier said than done. Ye Xiao was already level 12. And with the risk of permanent death looming over them, no one was willing to step into the higher level zones where he was currently grinding. There was no way he'd still be lurking around Novice Village either. Moreover, the highest level members of the guild were only level 4, which meant catching up to Ye Xiao was going to be damn near impossible unless they started leveling up fast. And so, the race to catch up to Ye Xiao had begun. Around that time, Ye Xiao received a message from Lady Sophia, summoning him to the Duke's mansion. She had news regarding what he had been investigating. Thrilled that details about the royal beast Tamer had come so quickly, Ye Xiao set off for the mansion without delay. As he entered the mansion, he was momentarily stunned by Lady Sophia's revealing outfit. Blushing with embarrassment, he thought she looked incredibly seductive. Who could resist that? Quickly changing the subject, he asked if there was any news about the royal beast Tamer. Lady Sophia explained that her uncle, Steer, was currently traveling and couldn't return just yet. Disappointed, Ye Xiao felt his hopes sink. However, Lady Sophia continued, saying that her uncle had asked her to inform Ye Xiao about how to unlock the hidden class. Surprisingly, it was located right there in Windleaf City. Ye Xiao's eyes lit up. He had assumed he would have to travel to the ends of the earth, only to discover the treasure was practically in his own backyard. He pressed Lady Sophia for details, and she hesitantly told him that, according to her uncle Steer, a very powerful dragon resided at the top of Dragon Ridge, just outside the city. Beneath that dragon's lair lay a labyrinth. Ye Xiao, recalling his past life knowledge, asked if she meant the cave maze. Startled, Lady Sophia wanted to know how he knew its name. Ye Xiao sidestepped the question, claiming he had heard of it before. In his previous life, he had grinded the cave maze extensively, facing only a level 80 demonized boss. No dragon. He wondered if something had changed this time. Lady Sophia confirmed that her uncle insisted a dragon guarded that area. Without hesitation, Ye Xiao decided to check it out immediately. Alarmed, Lady Sophia reminded him that he was only level 12 and that adventurers far stronger than him had never returned alive from a level 80 zone. He assured her that he had his methods. Toad grinned, chiming in that Ye Xiao had once stolen a dragon egg, so a mere labyrinth was nothing. Give him enough money, and he'd even take down a dragon. Dealing with dragons was apparently Ye Xiao's specialty. Retrieving his Supreme Hall token, Ye Xiao summoned Dolores. Lady Sophia was stunned. How could a level 12 player possess a Supreme Hall token? Dolores appeared and asked why Ye Xiao had called Big Sis this time. Ye Xiao explained that he had a big job for her. Surprised, Dolores asked if this was another dragon-related mission. When Ye Xiao nodded, Dolores couldn't help but ask if he had some grudge against dragons. After all, he'd nearly broken her back last time while stealing that dragon egg. Dolores initially refused, telling him to hire someone else. Ye Xiao then offered her the same payment as before, 2 billion gold coins. Though tempted, Dolores still declined, explaining that she was injured and needed recovery time. She could accompany him in a month, once healed. In response, Ye Xiao mentioned knowing the location of the Holy Spirit Spring, which could speed up her recovery. Shocked, Dolores demanded to know if he was serious. If he truly knew where it was, she would go with him even if it killed her. Ye Xiao confirmed it was in the Lost Lands, and they struck a deal. Watching from a distance, Lady Sophia thought Ye Xiao was beyond anything she could have imagined. She couldn't help but anticipate his future growth, perhaps even to the level of a god-tier powerhouse. Meanwhile, outside the beginner village, many players gathered around a man named Wang Qiang, who had just been slashed twice by a goblin. After respawning, his organs began failing. Panic spread as people realized the game could truly kill them. Everyone wanted to go home, but nobody knew how to log out. Suddenly, someone mentioned hearing about a player who had already reached level 12. Maybe they should find him and ask for help. On the other side of the world, Ye Xiao and his group reached Dragon Ridge, where the Holy Spirit Spring was rumored to be. Toad, admiring the area's beauty, remarked that it hardly seemed like a dragon's hiding place. Dolores cautioned him that the more peaceful a place looked, the deadlier the danger lurking there. Ye Xiao agreed, pointing out that the monsters here were level 80. Without Dolores's level suppression buff, they would already be surrounded. Since they were heading for the labyrinth, it was best to avoid unnecessary battles. Suddenly, they noticed a huge dragon circling atop the mountain. Dolores nervously asked if Ye Xiao really knew where the labyrinth entrance was, noting that the dragon above was tier 5. She did not want to be spotted. Ye Xiao told her to relax, insisting that the dragon wouldn't see them. He led them to a steep slope on the mountainside, where a massive stone gate stood, adorned with a mysterious magic pattern. Examining the magical array, Dolores remarked on its sophistication. She saw no lingering magic residue, and doubted she could open it. Ye Xiao reassured her, drew a knife, cut his hand, and let a few drops of blood fall onto the teleportation array. Startled, Dolores asked how he knew how to activate it. Ye Xiao only smiled in response. Dolores could hardly believe how mysterious he was. Just how many secrets was he hiding? When Ye Xiao entered the cave system, an inner warning flared. They had stepped into the dark cavern maze, an extremely dangerous area with only one exit. If they failed to find it within the time limit, they would be trapped forever. Worse still, the maze was home to deadly creatures, and they had only 180 minutes to escape. Ye Xiao frowned. An eerie zone with just 3 hours? In his previous life, he had heard the limit was 3 days. Something was definitely wrong. A little worried, Dolores warned him that this mission was even more dangerous than facing a tier 5 dragon, and asked if he was sure he still wanted those items. Ye Xiao smiled and reminded her, "You're a god-tier sorcerer. Surely you aren't frightened by something like this." Dolores scoffed. Did this brat actually think I'm scared? Laughing, she told him not to be ridiculous. She was a god-tier powerhouse, a supreme hall elder, and a top sorcerer. A mere eerie maze couldn't faze her. Ye Xiao grinned. That was exactly what he wanted to hear. Then he asked, "Do you know concealment magic?" Dolores coughed. What kind of question was that? Concealment magic was so low level that she hadn't even bothered learning it as an apprentice. Ye Xiao calmed her, explaining that he wanted her to hide their presence and aura. For Dolores, that was child's play. With a flick of her finger, she activated Shadow Phantom buff. Instantly, they merged with the darkness and vanished from sight. Ye Xiao was impressed. Just what he expected from a god-tier sorcerer. He told Dolores there were 5 eerie monsters in the maze. 3 level 60 crawlers, 1 level 60 elite boss, and 1 level 80 monster. They would have to be careful. Surprised, Dolores asked how he knew that. They were the first to discover this dungeon. Ye Xiao merely smiled. He couldn't very well tell her he had cleared this maze 800 times in his past life. Dolores, now intrigued, wondered aloud, "Just how many secrets are you hiding?" Ye Xiao said nothing. Just then, they spotted 3 monsters guarding a gate ahead. Ye Xiao whispered that they had to sneak past without drawing attention, and asked her to follow his footwork closely. Dolores huffed. She was higher level than he was, and had cleared more mazes than he had walked roads. Ignoring her protest, Ye Xiao stepped forward. He slipped past the traps and walked right by a level 60 elite. It didn't even notice him. Dolores was stunned. She took back her earlier words and acknowledged Ye Xiao as her master, copying his tactics. She dodged every trap and passed the monsters unseen. Ye Xiao glanced back and reminded her, "Be ready for combat." They reached the final chamber, but to Ye Xiao's surprise, the boss guarding the treasure chest was nothing like the one from his previous life. Standing in its place was a maze guardian yin spirit beast. Ye Xiao glanced at Dolores. "Can you check its level?" "Level 100. Berserk grade eerie boss," she said. "Powerful, but not unbeatable." "I'll open the chest," he decided. "Be ready to strike." Before he moved, Dolores cast absolute defense on him. "Better safe than sorry. Don't act recklessly like last time," Ye Xiao whispered. "One slip, and you'll alert the beast. Worry about yourself," she shot back, then slipped behind the monster and knelt by the chest. In his past life, it had contained a hidden class scroll, but when he lifted the lid, he froze. This time, the contents were completely different. While he stared, the boss sensed him and lunged. Dolores. She fired Frost Shock, pinning the creature. "Run! I can barely hold it!" Ye Xiao sprinted, but the beast broke free and charged. Panicked, he called for help. Dolores flashed in front of him, tracing a 5-point magic formation that locked the monster in place. Only then did Ye Xiao inspect the loot. A cold sheepskin scroll, and more importantly, a glittering diamond. A heaven-rank cooldown stone. It could reset the cooldown of any skill or item once every 3 days. With this, I can refresh any ability whenever I need, he marveled. Dolores glanced over her shoulder. So, fight or flee? Fight, Ye Xiao said. Go all out. She unleashed her strongest thunder strike, and the beast roared in agony. Ye Xiao frowned. Why is it screaming like that? It's not berserk, Dolores warned. It's summoning something. A deafening crack split the ceiling, as the dragon they'd glimpsed outside the dungeon burst through the roof, spewing a torrent of fire that threatened to engulf them both. Dolores shouted at Ye Xiao, "Run for your life! There's no way we can beat that thing!" She couldn't believe they were fleeing for their lives once again. How could a yin spirit beast possibly summon a dragon? Ye Xiao shook his head. Maybe they're just neighbors helping each other protect their territory. Stop talking and move, Toad snarled. That monster's catching up. Especially to you, Ye Xiao. It's gone berserk, and it's immune to slow effects. But Ye Xiao stood his ground. There's no way we can outrun it if it's going all out. We have no choice. We have to take it down first. Dolores eyed him anxiously. That beast is level 100. You're only level 12. You can't beat it. I know, Ye Xiao admitted. But I have the cooldown stone and the brutal chapter. This is a perfect chance to test my firepower. Dolores gaped at him, appalled that he would risk his life on such a gamble. Ye Xiao immediately used the cooldown stone to remove the brutal chapter's cooldown, then unleashed his attack on the monster. At first, it only inflicted 242 damage. Ye Xiao groaned in disbelief. All that for just 242? But in the next moment, the damage numbers began to climb. The tiny hole he had made in the boss's chest suddenly widened, and the yin spirit beast collapsed, killed instantly. Ye Xiao stood there stunned. What just happened? A system message popped up in front of him. Greater than. Because the target's HP dropped below 20%. The forced instant death effect has been triggered. Ye Xiao had single-handedly slain a level 100 strange demonized boss, the yin spirit beast. He jumped 8 levels, soaring to level 20, and his companion beast, Little Greenie, also reached level 20. He stared at his new level in shock, while Dolores was equally dumbfounded. A level 12 rookie killed a level 100 demonized boss. Just then, the system broadcast a world announcement. Raider than Daxia, player Ye Xiao has successfully defeated the level 100 strange demonized boss, Yin Spirit Beast. First kill of a level 100 demonized boss. Rewards. Reputation, plus 500. Attribute points, plus 50. Daxia Warzone points, plus 1. Players worldwide went into an uproar. Is this a joke? The game only just launched. How could anyone kill a level 100 boss? Many thought the game was bugged or suspected Ye Xiao of cheating. A few even declared him their godfather and jokingly called him daddy, while others questioned how a level 12 nobody could possibly take down such a powerful enemy. Some believed there must be a hidden trick. Even an elderly player who had always looked down on Daxia's gamers was forced to wonder, was there some secret group working behind the scenes? Could the mysterious Doomsday organization be backing this Ye Xiao? Meanwhile, back in the collapsing cavern, Dolores urged Ye Xiao to hurry. We need to get out, now. But the loot, he protested. No time, she snapped, opening a portal. If you don't move, you're going to die under all this rubble. Reluctantly, Ye Xiao followed her. They barely escaped, coughing as they tumbled clear of the collapse. Dolores laughed breathlessly. I haven't done something that exciting in ages. Ye Xiao thanked her. If it weren't for that portal, we'd be finished. They were still catching their breath when the Skyfire dragon they'd encountered before burst from the dungeon, unleashing a torrent of flames at them once again. Ye Xiao and Dolores ran for their lives, hearts pounding as they dodged collapsing rocks and roaring flames. Dolores shouted, If I don't make it, send me the location of the Holy Spirit Spring, and my payment. Despite her apparent desperation, they managed to escape. Once he'd returned to Funja, the main city, Ye Xiao went straight to Miss Sophia to show her the scroll he'd found in the labyrinth. Sophia was astonished that he'd succeeded in retrieving such a rare item. You're incredible, she breathed, still examining the parchment. Ye Xiao shrugged casually. It was nothing. A piece of cake, he said, though in truth he knew he'd nearly died multiple times. Sophia frowned at the scroll and shook her head. This doesn't look like an ordinary class change scroll. Ye Xiao blinked in confusion. What do you mean? That parchment? Sophia explained. This unlocks your hidden potential. awakening a unique class intended just for you. My uncle, Stir, can guide you through it. Follow me. She led Ye Xiao into a hidden chamber beneath the estate, one he'd never seen in his previous life. In that room stood a stately man with an air of quiet authority. Sophia nodded toward him. This is Stare, the royal beastmaster I told you about, and my uncle. Sir offered a dignified smile. I'm the one you seek, Ye Xiao. So you want to unlock this hidden class? Ye Xiao inclined his head in greeting. Yes, I'm here for the class transfer. Stir examined the parchment and let out a soft chuckle. I thought this method was lost to the ages, but apparently I was wrong. He turned to Ye Xiao with a steady gaze. I'll help you, but be warned. This will awaken the deepest power within you. Don't panic, and don't resist. Just let your energy flow. Ye Xiao nodded, excitement coursing through him. I've waited too long for this already. Very well, Stir replied. Listen closely to my instructions. Guide your energy through your body, and let the scroll's power merge with your spirit. As Ye Xiao did exactly that, swirling lights burst around him. 5 crystal balls in the chamber lit up, radiating with energy. Stir's eyes widened. All 5 are activated? That's impossible. Sophia, alarmed by her uncle's expression, asked, Uncle, is this the supreme class transfer you mentioned? Slowly. Stir nodded. Yes. When I underwent this process, I only managed to activate 3 crystals. This young man is pushing beyond human limits. Is he even human? Sophia's face gleamed with excitement. So, Ye Xiao really is extraordinary. Suddenly, a system notification appeared before Ye Xiao. Congratulations, you have completed the class transfer quest, Whispers of the Dragon, and have successfully changed your class to the unique hidden profession, Dragon Speaker. Due to the infusion of mysterious power, your class rank has been upgraded. You have surpassed the ordinary rank limit and advanced to the unique god-tier hidden profession, Beast Godmaster. Power flooded Ye Xiao's body. His status windows blinked, and his new stats soared off the charts. Stir looked on in complete disbelief. The Beast Godmaster class? He exclaimed. That's a legendary profession. You'll master the supreme power of the Beast God itself, gaining 40 attribute points per level. Ye Xiao stared at his interface, stunned at his newfound strength. In addition, he discovered a crafting blueprint for the God's Guardian set, an evolving piece of equipment starting at epic rank. The materials required, however, were all notoriously rare, meaning he would have to face fearsome monsters to gather them. Smiling, Ye Xiao bowed gratefully to Stir. Thank you for guiding me through the transfer. Stir nodded in approval. Use that power wisely. You have the potential to do great things. Mr. Stir rested a hand on Ye Xiao's shoulder. You've stepped into the divine realm now. Your potential is limitless. Toad nodded in agreement. Ye Xiao smiled to himself. Looks like I really am destined to reach the peak in this lifetime. But first, I need to craft the Beast God's Claw. Elsewhere in the game world, news of Ye Xiao's solo clear had inspired others. At the entrance to the Abyss-level trial, 3 well-equipped players approached the Stone Guardian. Respected Guardian, we wish to challenge the Abyss trial, their leader declared. The Guardian's eyes glowed. Which difficulty? The man, called Tiger Unleashed, stepped forward. Solo run. Abyss level. The Guardian's stony brows lifted. Another one attempting a solo clear? Tiger Unleashed grinned. I live for challenges. No regrets, even if I die. His 2 female companions wished him luck and promised to wait for good news. The Guardian could only marvel at how fearless these off-world visitors were. 5 minutes later, Tiger Unleashed stumbled back out, bleeding and battered. His friends rushed to heal him. What happened in there? One asked. The monsters are mutated. Terrifying, he panted. No one can solo that place. As they poured a healing potion down his throat, the trio finally accepted the truth. Not just anyone could conquer an Abyss-level trial alone. Meanwhile, Ye Xiao had come to the Great Rift to grind levels. The plaza outside the trial was buzzing. Players speculated wildly about his identity and what bug he must be using to level so fast. Ye Xiao ignored them, preferring to lie low. He sat on a boulder, admiring the view while Greenie farmed mobs for him. With a swipe of Dragon Claw, Greenie dealt 2,354 damage, one-shotting a rock golem. 2 dark gold weapons dropped, a rock-shattering hammer and a rock greatsword. Ye Xiao bent to pick them up, but a shadow loomed. A level 20 Abyss Watcher King, a king-rank boss, materialized before him. A king-rank boss at level 20? Perfect. Drawing the great sword he just looted, Ye Xiao charged while Little Gay lunged in from the flank. Back at the earlier trial site, Tiger Unleashed's party was still discussing Ye Xiao's exploit. Tiger Unleashed had followed Ye Xiao's path exactly. Yet he died. Then, a new world announcement blazed across their interfaces. Player Ye Xiao of the Grand Xiao Nation has become the first in history to clear the level 20 Abyss trial. Reward: Epic Item Stone of Valor and +1 Grand Xiao Warzone point. The trio stared in disbelief. While they struggled, Ye Xiao had just set another record. Moments after the announcement, Ye Xiao finished off the Abyss Watcher. To his surprise, the boss left no loot. Only another Abyss Stone fragment. He could hardly believe it when he killed the Wanderer. It had dropped a mysterious fragment, and now, the Watcher had dropped one as well. What exactly are these things? He wondered. Could they be combined to forge some sort of divine equipment? Whatever their purpose, Ye Xiao tucked both fragments safely into his inventory. I'll figure it out later. Time to head back. Upon returning to town, the city guards congratulated him for passing the trial and presented his reward. An epic rank Stone of Valor, an item that could enhance the Badge of Bravery. Ye Xiao was stunned. An upgrade stone for his badge. Without hesitation, he used it, and the badge immediately evolved to legendary grade. Its new power was so overwhelming that even the level 30 zones would now be child's play. Before he could set off, a system notification flashed in front of him. The game will shut down soon for maintenance. Ye Xiao frowned. What's happening? Can we finally log out and return to reality? Every player received the same message and breathed a collective sigh of relief. They would at last be able to see their families again. Moments later, everyone began logging out. Back in the real world, at Ye Xiao's house in Haining, he switched on the television to catch the news. A reporter announced that after Daxia country, the United States had also been engulfed by the apocalypse game. Experts predicted that the phenomenon would soon sweep the globe. Falling asleep would automatically pull people into the game, a challenge all humanity must face. A player named Menghu Chulong had already died in the game and been found dead in reality. How terrifying is the Abyss difficulty trial? What future awaits ordinary players? Seeking answers, the reporter invited Qing Feng, a top-ranked player, to discuss safe leveling strategies. Qing Feng explained that he had led a team to conquer the hard difficulty advancement trial, and, in that day's livestream, would address whether death in the trial truly affected reality. The name Qing Feng was unfamiliar to Ye Xiao, but he was curious to see what skills this player possessed. When the reporter asked how it felt to be the first person since Ye Xiao to clear an advancement trial, Qing Feng answered modestly. He hadn't done it alone. His team had only just scraped through, and luck had been on their side. The reporter leaned forward. Players now enter Apocalypse whenever they fall asleep. What's your take on that? Qing Feng shook his head. The authorities still can't explain the game's existence, and surviving inside it is far more complicated than people realize. She pressed on. We've also learned that Ye Xiao, a player from Daxia, has cleared the Abyss difficulty trial twice. As a fellow top player, what do you think of him? Ye Xiao and I aren't even comparable, Qing Feng replied. Even if every other ranked player combined their strength, they still might not match him. Across the city, a man in a white suit watched the interview with growing interest. If I can recruit someone like Ye Xiao, he mused, I'll wield absolute power in Apocalypse. Turning to his butler, Fu, he ordered, use every resource we have. I want everything there is to know about Ye Xiao. Meanwhile, Ye Xiao was still processing the forced logout. So we can only enter by falling asleep? He thought. In my previous life, the invasion progressed faster. This slower pace is the perfect window to level up. For Beast Tamers, level 30 unlocks an extra beast slot. No time to waste. I'll hit 30 first. He lay down, drifted off, and re-entered the game, heading straight for Grey Mist Valley, a level 30 zone. Summoning Little Greenie, he began the hunt. The wolf's stun technique froze the monsters. Ye Xiao's fire breath finished them in seconds. Before long, both Master and Beast reached level 24, and Ye Xiao grinned at their rapid progress. Back in Haining Town, players stared at the leaderboard in disbelief. Ye Xiao's level was soaring. The gap between first and second place was now more than double. I thought leveling would slow down at higher tiers. Everyone should be catching up, yet the gap keeps widening. Estimate clapped him on the shoulder. Ye Xiao was never our real opponent, boss. You're already outstanding. Second place is plenty. And we still hold 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place. Meanwhile, at Beginner Village number 9527, Dragon's Nest, 2 dragons conversed in the gloom. The fire dragon growled. That egg has been missing for days, yet she hides here, sleeping peacefully. As Dragon Prophet, she bears the fate of our entire race. The glorious dragon answered calmly. Have you not sensed it? That human carries an aura we despise. The repulsive gods. The fire dragon scoffed. You can't seriously believe a mere human insect wields such power. I am the dragon prophet. I see further than you, she replied. I'm willing to entrust our race's future to that mortal. You're being reckless, the fire dragon roared. There is no time left, the prophet said, her voice firm. We must act, and quickly. Darkness will transcend space and time, devouring all. This mortal is the last hope. So she asked the fire dragon to follow her. However, the fire dragon wasn't in agreement with her. How could he entrust the fate of the dragon race to a mortal? But the glorious dragon told him not to worry too much. Just follow me, she said, and you will see. Meanwhile, a group of players finally made it to Windleleaf Main City. It wasn't easy, but they succeeded. Besides Ye Xiao, they should be the first players to reach Windleleaf Main City. As they celebrated, they suddenly heard a noise and noticed two giant dragons flying above the city. One of the dragons was carrying someone who was shouting for help. It was Ye Xiao, calling out for aid as the Judgment Dragon was kidnapping him. Toad, however, told him to stop yelling, saying, There's no one strong enough to save you. The players, who had just entered Windleaf City for the first time, couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had never seen such huge dragons before. What shocked them even more was that Ye Xiao had been captured by the dragons, and they seemed to be carrying him somewhere. A blue-haired man remarked that even if they reached level 100, no one would dare get involved with a dragon of this caliber. One of his teammates asked if they should follow it, but the blue-haired man warned, That's the Judgment Dragon. One sneeze from it and we're all gone. There's no way we can save him. The news spread through the community quickly. Players who witnessed the scene firsthand told everyone that a dragon boss had appeared outside Windleleaf City, one of the main cities, and that a poor, unlucky player had been captured. Big shot King Fang Quizu revealed that the unlucky player might be Night God. What does being caught by a dragon mean? Ordinary players speculate. Top players analyze. A leaderboard veteran shockingly reveals. Players around the world were stunned, wondering why Ye Xiao was caught by two dragons. Some hadn't even seen a dragon yet, and Night God was already dealing with them. No wonder his level is so high. The dragons must be power leveling him, some exclaimed. That's some crazy grinding speed. Others were jealous, thinking, if we were that powerful, we'd probably be level 30 by now too. How can Ye Xiao already be interacting with such high-level creatures? That's insane. Meanwhile, the two dragons took Ye Xiao into their dragon lair and released him. A little scared, Ye Xiao wondered why they had captured him. But when he looked closely, he realized they looked familiar. Toad smirked and asked, Have you forgotten the good deeds you've done? These were the same dragons Ye Xiao had messed with before. He was doomed. One had its egg stolen by him, and the other had its home looted. Things weren't looking good. The fire dragon approached Ye Xiao and asked if he wasn't afraid. Clearly terrified, Ye Xiao gathered his courage and said, You can kill me or flame me. Do as you wish, but I am not afraid of you. Inside his head he thought, who wouldn't be afraid? Anyone who says otherwise is a fool. But the red dragon assured him, You don't need to fear us. He revealed that the dragon egg Ye Xiao took was the last hope of the dragon race, and bringing him here was to bestow upon him a great opportunity. Ye Xiao, confused, asked, Are you talking about Little Greenie? The fire dragon became furious at the disgraceful name, but Ye Xiao insisted, Little Greenie really likes it. The red dragon intervened, telling the fire dragon there wasn't much time left. Both dragons then flew into the sky, chanting in the name of the dragon god. Ye Xiao, now panicking, cried, What are you going to do to me? I was just joking earlier. If you let me live, I'll do whatever you want. Toad also tried to distance himself, saying, I don't even know him that well. The dragon egg theft had nothing to do with me. Ignoring them, the dragons continued chanting. Suddenly, energy poured from their bodies into a massive dragon statue, causing its eyes to glow. The statue turned toward Ye Xiao and bestowed upon him the blessing of the Dragon Clan, a fragment of the dragon god's power. Meanwhile, on the Doomsday Forum, major changes swept across the server. Daxia Nation continued to dominate, occupying the entire top 100 of the level rankings. The second spot on this leaderboard had changed. Jinyi Yexing, showcasing top-tier assassin skills, skyrocketed to level 14, replacing Ming Yue Ru Yue and widening the gap. Ye Xiao remained at the top but hadn't leveled up in 3 days. Has the new god fallen? Players wondered. Ever since being taken by the dragons, Ye Xiao had stayed at level 30, and speculation ran wild.
Does anyone know what really happened to Night God? Is this some extreme hidden quest? Did he make a shady deal with the dragons to level up, and now it's time to pay the price? One player claimed, "My buddy has inside info. Night Xiao is done for. He's not coming back in 3 days, maybe not even 30. Another skeptically asked, "Who's your buddy?" Even top players like Mingyu Ruyue don't know anything. Meanwhile, after the blessing, Ye Xiao, now stronger, passed out. When he awoke, he found himself in a level 40 monster hunting area. The dragons were gone. He immediately checked his status window, expecting unique skills or boosted stats from the dragon god's blessing. But at first glance, nothing seemed different. Then he noticed 2 new abilities. Money Shield converts 100 gold coins into 1 shield point, blocks true damage, special damage, attribute damage, and is immune to shield breaking, execution, and instant death effects. With 1.81 billion gold coins, this skill is insane. No cooldown. Infinite Beast Mastery, level 1. Allows taming an unlimited number of beasts. Normal Royal Beastmasters only get 3 core pets. Is this real or am I dreaming? Ye Xiao wondered, ecstatic. I'll burn incense for those dragon gods and thank my ancestors for 8 generations. Later, he headed to the level 30 trial hall. The guard recognized him and asked, "Are you taking the abyssal level trial?" Ye Xiao nodded. The guard opened the gate, wished him luck, and Ye Xiao stepped into the abyssal level trial. But to his surprise, this time it was a snow-themed dungeon. "It's so cold," he muttered. "Freezing. If he had known it would be this freezing, he would have worn something warmer before entering." Just as he was thinking about this, suddenly a snowball came flying toward him. Ye Xiao quickly dodged it. However, Toad was confused and asked, "Instead of dodging it, why didn't you use your shield?" Ye Xiao smiled awkwardly. "I forgot about that." Just then, a snowy monster, Yu's Yeti, rushed toward Ye Xiao to attack. Ye Xiao quickly ordered Little Gray to show them who was fiercer. Little Gray used Dragon Breath and instantly killed the mutant Yeti. Ye Xiao was shocked. He couldn't believe Little Gray had killed a mutant Yeti with 1 attack. But when he looked at Little Gray's status window, he was stunned. All of Little Gray's stats were insanely boosted after receiving the Dragon God's blessing. Ye Xiao wasn't the only one who had gotten new skills. Little Gray had also received insane skill boosts and stat increases. Just as he was looking over Little Gray's status, suddenly, a pack of monsters rushed toward them to attack. Ye Xiao quickly ordered Little Gray to eliminate them. Little Gray used Dragon Breath again and killed all the monsters one by one. Half an hour later, Ye Xiao successfully slew the Seeker of the Abyss, a king-tier monster. Ye Xiao laughed. "I can't believe a king-tier monster is this weak." However, Toad warned him, "Don't get cocky. Remember how badly you got crushed before." Meanwhile, after Ye Xiao cleared the Abyss-level trial, the system announced, "Daxia player Night Xiao has passed the Abyss-level advancement trial, becoming the first ever hero to clear the level 30 Abyss trial. Reward: Epic item, Heroic Radiant Stone. 1 point added to Daxia Warzone score." All the players who had seen the news about Ye Xiao being taken by dragons and thought he was dead were now in shock. One of them told his friend, "I knew it. Night God was preparing something big this whole time, but no one believed me." Some were still wondering, how did this guy get taken by dragons and still come back? Daxia's advantage just keeps growing. A man in red armor told his colleague, "I knew it. There's no way a character like him would die so early." A player in a hoodie agreed, "I can't believe even the level 30 Abyss trial could be cleared. This guy's potential really is bottomless." The man in red armor told his men, "Let's go back to the city. I want to meet this interesting fellow and try to bring him under our command. That's when the real game begins." Meanwhile, Ye Xiao, after successfully clearing the Abyss-level trial, received Abyss Stone Fragment 3 as a reward. Ye Xiao was confused, wondering, just how many fragments are there? He also received another reward, the Heroic Radiant Stone, an epic-grade item. It was a rare material infused with radiant energy from the Heroic Stone, capable of further enhancing the Heroic Emblem. Only powerful heroes were qualified to own it. With this Heroic Radiant Stone, he could enhance his Heroic Emblem again. As Ye Xiao was leaving, the guard said goodbye to him and told him to take care. Ye Xiao thanked him and said goodbye as well. Sometime later, at Fenye Main City, Ye Xiao pulled up his hood to cover his face, seeing how crowded the city had become. He had been missing for several days, and now Fenye was packed with players. But he didn't care. He went straight to the appraisal shop to get his gear appraised. To his surprise, there were so many people standing in line outside the shop. However, Ye Xiao didn't have to worry. He had first-class citizenship. He went straight into the shop and told the shopkeeper, "I want to appraise my gear." But the shopkeeper, without even looking at him, snapped, "Get in line, don't bug me." However, when he looked at Ye Xiao more closely, he suddenly recognized him. His attitude changed immediately. He politely approached and warmly welcomed him. The other players waiting in line weren't happy at all. Furious, they muttered, "Just because he's first class, he gets to cut the line." But Ye Xiao didn't care. He took out his heroic emblem and asked the shopkeeper, "Help me enhance this first." The shopkeeper was shocked to see the heroic emblem. Without wasting any time, he started working on it carefully. "This thing's so valuable, I don't want to mess it up," he thought. Meanwhile, other players outside the shop were watching and wondering, "What kind of good item is that? Doesn't look like much, just a shabby emblem." But as the shopkeeper began enhancing the heroic emblem, the ice-cold air inside the shop started glowing from its radiance. What they saw next shocked them. The shabby-looking emblem they had mocked was actually legendary grade equipment. However, Ye Xiao wasn't satisfied. "Another legendary item," he muttered. He had been expecting more. In his eyes, this didn't seem like a huge upgrade. Seeing the legendary grade equipment, the other players began to whisper among themselves. Could this guy be the famous Knight Xiao? The one who passed the Abyss-level trial? They rushed toward Ye Xiao, asking him to add them as friends. Some begged him to sell the legendary grade equipment, while others even introduced their sisters, hoping to team up with him. But the shopkeeper shouted, "Everyone, calm down! Don't disrupt the store's business!" Ye Xiao, wanting to stay low-key, quickly gathered his items and asked the shopkeeper, "Help me appraise these other items too." The shopkeeper smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't disappoint you." The other players, however, were shocked to see so many dark gold gear pieces among Ye Xiao's items. They told him, "You probably won't use all that gear. Why not sell a few pieces?" Some even bragged about their family backgrounds and offered him large sums of money, hoping to buy some of his equipment. Immediately, a guy uploaded a post on the player's portal, saying that the great Ye Xiao had appeared in Fanye City, and that everything he had identified was dark gold-ranked gear. He urged everyone to come and worship the Grandmaster. Seeing that message, a girl asked on the portal if the info was reliable, since last time they also claimed Ye Xiao had shown up. But when she got there, it was a fake, and she almost had a stroke from rage. The first guy immediately replied that this information was more real than pure gold. He uploaded some photos and told her to look. These were taken at the site, with the coordinates pointing to an appraisal shop east of the city. Seeing this, the girl immediately returned to the city. Not just her. Hundreds of people rushed back and went to the appraisal shop in excitement, asking, "Where is the great Knight Xiao?" One guy declared that today, he must ask Xiao to take him as his disciple. Another shouted that if anyone was going to be a disciple, it was him. Some girls also headed there, saying they wanted to have children with Knight Xiao. Seeing the crowd, Ye Xiao left the appraisal shop and ran away. He hid behind a wall, checked to make sure no one was following him, then sighed, muttering, "Being the center of attention all the time is exhausting." But suddenly, a man in red armor approached him. "Are you Knight Xiao?" he asked. Annoyed, Ye Xiao asked what he wanted. The red-armored man told him not to get the wrong idea. They didn't mean harm, they just wanted to talk business. Hearing about a deal, Ye Xiao asked if he wanted to buy dark gold-ranked gear. "Yeah, something like that," the man said, adding that he could make Ye Xiao an offer he couldn't refuse. Hearing that, Ye Xiao laughed and replied, "Unless you can pay hundreds of billions of gold coins for dark gold gear, I really wouldn't be able to refuse." At the mention of hundreds of billions, the red-armored man smirked. "Your vision is still stuck in the game." "I see." Ye Xiao was surprised. This guy showed off even more than he did. But this man hadn't existed in Ye Xiao's previous life. The assassin standing behind the red-armored man, however, sounded familiar. He was one of the top assassins in Ye Xiao's past life, someone who never joined any faction and always acted alone. Ye Xiao then asked, "What are you trying to say?" The red-armored man explained that after seeing Ye Xiao dominate the rankings, he believed he had great potential and would achieve big things in the future. "But it seems you haven't realized the huge benefits your in-game abilities could bring to real life," he added. Ye Xiao crossed his arms. "Keep talking. I want to see how far this act goes." The man continued, "I don't like selling dreams. Money, status, women, whatever you want. I can give it to you," he boasted proudly. "Make your choice and join us." After hearing it all,
Ye Xiao patted the man's shoulder. The fact that you came to me means you acknowledge my skills. I appreciate that. The red-armored man grinned. Glad you understood. Before he could finish, Ye Xiao conjured a fireball in his hand. For someone so young, that cocky attitude. I don't like it. Let me give you a manual respawn to calm you down. The man paled. Think carefully. If you attack here, Ye Xiao didn't let him finish. He hurled the fireball, dealing 346 damage, and sneered. Idiot! You talk too much. As the red-armored man collapsed, his subordinates erupted in fury. Did he really kill the young master? They drew their weapons, but the assassin on their team stopped them. Don't move. This is the main city. Killing is forbidden. We can't take responsibility for what happens. Ye Xiao turned to leave, tossing a casual remark. Consider the money and gear on the ground as compensation, and don't follow that guy anymore. He has no future. The subordinates stared in disbelief. He's insane! Killing in the main city? Suddenly sirens blared. A loud voice shouted, Who's fighting here? The guards arrived, surrounding everyone. Their leader bellowed, Who dares kill in the main city? Are you out of your minds? Ye Xiao stepped forward. It was me. The guard leader glared. You killed someone and stay this calm. You've got serious gut. He froze mid-sentence, spotting the badge on Ye Xiao's chest. First-class citizen. His tone instantly shifted. A misunderstanding. My apologies for our recklessness. Could you explain what happened so we can file a report? Ye Xiao shrugged. Nothing serious. Someone threatened me, so I cleaned him up. The guard leader feigned outrage. A vagrant dared offend a first-class citizen? Sir, next time allow us to handle it. Don't dirty your hands. Ye Xiao waved him off. It was no effort. The guard leader bowed. If there's nothing else, we won't disturb you further. The red-armored man's subordinates were stunned. How is this possible? As the guards dispersed, one whispered to the leader. Why didn't we arrest him? The leader hissed. Fool! That's the young man the Duchess is searching for. Report this, and we'll be promoted. The other guards gasped. No wonder you're the boss. Meanwhile, at the Duke's mansion, Lady Sophia paced her room, fuming. Good heavens, are you mocking me? Why are there still no updates on Ye Xiao? Just then, a maid burst in. My lady, news! We found Lord Ye Xiao. Sophia leaped up, eyes blazing. Where? At the resurrection point, the red-armored man revived, livid. Why didn't you act against him? His subordinates explained the guard's reaction. After a tense pause, the man exhaled. Fine. I lost my composure. Ye Xiao's already level 30. It's normal we're no match, but soon he'll regret challenging me. He turned to the assassin. Use your stealth. Retrieve my gear. Yes, young master. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind them. I didn't take your gear, but from the look of it, you won't need it anymore. Ye Xiao stood there, smirking. The team whirled around, shocked. The red-armored guy immediately asked Ye Xiao, This is the respawn zone. What do you think you're doing? Surveillance here is even tighter than in the main city. But Ye Xiao didn't listen to a word he said. He raised his staff and cast a spell, telling the red-armored guy, If you don't remove the root, the grass will grow back with the spring breeze. Saying that, he shot a fireball at the red-armored guy, burning him to death again. Seeing this, the red-armored guy's subordinates immediately drew their swords to attack. But Ye Xiao warned them, Don't move, or red armor won't be the only one to die. Whether I kill one or many makes no difference to me. I don't care. Then, after a few seconds, the red-armored guy was resurrected again right in the respawn area. Now, he was scared. He asked Ye Xiao, What's the meaning of this? And warned him not to take things too far, because if anything happened to him, not only he, but all his family and friends would pay the price. Hearing that, Ye Xiao told the red-armored guy, You're about to die, yet you still boast. He shot another fireball at him, declaring that his threats meant nothing. As the red-armored guy died, many people began gathering around the respawn area. They were shocked to see the great Ye Xiao killing someone at the respawn point. One guy asked, Why is he killing in the respawn zone? Is he crazy? On the other hand, after dying for the third time, the red-armored guy didn't resurrect. His subordinates panicked when they saw that their young master didn't respawn and was forced to log out. Just as the red-armored guy died, a bald man appeared with some guards. That bald man was the black-robed judge, and he angrily demanded, Who dares to kill here? When the assassin from the red-armored guy's team saw the black-robed judge, he told Ye Xiao, Even if you are strong, you won't escape the judgment of the black-robed judge. Now you're really in trouble.
Even Ye Xiao felt nervous seeing that they had alerted the black-robed judge. He knew that, at his current level, facing the judge head-on would be a huge loss. He immediately calmed down and admitted, "I was the one who did the killing. I'll go with you." Seeing how reasonable Ye Xiao was, the black-robed judge ordered his men to take him away. The judge's men handcuffed Ye Xiao, and he didn't resist. At the same time, in the real world, at the red-armored guy's home, he lay unresponsive on his bed. His butler tried to wake him, calling, "Young master, wake up!" But it was no use. Hearing the commotion, the red-armored guy's father, an old man, entered the room and asked the butler what had happened to his son. The butler explained that the young master had been killed. Shocked, the old man demanded, "Who killed my son?" Furious, he declared, "I want the killer's entire family to die with him." Meanwhile, in the game world, Ye Xiao was brought before the Dragon Phoenix Empire's court. The judge asked, "First-class citizen of the Dragon Phoenix Empire, Ye Xiao, why did you break the laws of Fanye City by killing in the respawn zone?" Ye Xiao replied that the red-armored guy had harassed and threatened him. So to defend the dignity of a first-class citizen, he had to kill him. Hearing Ye Xiao admit that he had blocked the respawn point and killed the man 5 times in a row, the spectators in the court began murmuring, "That's too much. He didn't even give him a chance," one person said. Another added, "It's terrifying. Not even the respawn point is safe now. If you offend Knight Ye Xiao, you could lose your life in this game. If he wants to kill someone, that person is doomed." The judge silenced everyone and declared, "For killing, and considering this is your first offense, you are sentenced to lifetime exile from the Eastern District, with no right to enter." Ye Xiao tried to explain himself, but suddenly a voice interrupted. Ye Xiao only killed a vagrant who dared to offend his dignity. Both emotionally and legally, it was justified. Everyone turned in surprise. It was Duchess Lady Sophia. She asked the judge, "Isn't this punishment a bit unfair?" Nervous, the judge bowed. "Respected lady, Judge Otter greets you." Lady Sophia dismissed the formality, then pointed at Ye Xiao. "He is my friend, and I won't tolerate him being treated unfairly. What do you think, Judge Otter?" The judge immediately reversed his decision. "The lady is right. My sentence was rushed. According to Fanye City law, if a vagrant offends a first-class citizen, he must be executed." Sophia then asked, "In that case, why not remove the handcuffs from Mr. Ye Xiao?" The judge ordered the soldiers to release him at once. "If Ye Xiao is not guilty, and there's nothing else, may we leave?" she asked. "You may leave at any time," the judge replied. Lady Sophia turned to Ye Xiao. "All right, let's go," and they left together. Once outside, Ye Xiao thanked her. "You saved my skin again." Sophia laughed. "It was nothing. I'd heard you were captured by a dragon, so I sent people searching everywhere. I'm glad you're okay." Ye Xiao smiled. "I was captured by 2 dragons, but it turned out to be a blessing. I got many good things from them." Excited, Sophia grabbed his arm. "You must come home with me and tell me everything." Ye Xiao kissed her hand. "Of course, Sophia. It's been too long. I have much to share." Blushing, she asked, "Are you serious?" "Completely," he replied, then added, "Is Mr. Stir still at the mansion? I need to ask him about the second-class mission." Shocked, Sophia gasped, "Ye Xiao, you're already level 30? That's too fast."
At the main hall of the Duke's mansion, Stir met him and expressed that it was no wonder someone who made 5 crystal balls appear would level up that fast. He felt inferior. Ye Xiao told him that he was too humble. Then, Stir expressed that he wanted to consult him about the second-class mission. Stir admitted that the second-class missions for hidden professions were not his field. Even if he traveled the entire continent, he still wouldn't find a clear answer. It was because the domain of the gods was far too mysterious. Lady Sophia asked what they should do. She inquired if it meant that he wouldn't be able to obtain his second-class mission. Stir told her there was nothing to worry about. He knew that to advance to a hidden class's second profession, one must gain the recognition of the gods. Xiao asked if it referred to the Lost Temple. Stir was impressed that he actually knew about it. He replied that he had heard of it before, but didn't know where it was. When it came to mysterious places in Apocalypse, the Lost Temple was among the top. Lady Sophia was enamored by how wise and knowledgeable he was. Stir told him that the Lost Temple appeared randomly, like a mirage. One second it was in front of him, and the next, it vanished without a trace. A system window appeared, notifying him that he had accepted the class change quest to search for the Lost Temple. Toad told him that it was such a mysterious place, making his advancement tough. Xiao realized that the matter of the second class needed to be planned carefully. Lady Sophia saw him off and told him that when he was done, he should go find her. He agreed. Toad asked where they would even look for the lost temple, commenting that it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Xiao replied that they wouldn't search for it yet because something more important was coming. He knew that tomorrow would be the first strange invasion in Apocalypse. Toad asked about it. Xiao explained that the gate to another world would open, and countless strange creatures would rise from the abyss. By then, all beings in Windleaf Main City would be massacred, and every building in the city would be destroyed. Toad grew concerned and suggested that they run. He told Xiao that he couldn't protect all his property in the city. Xiao, however, had one person in mind to deal with those creatures. He opened a portal and called Dolores, who popped her head inside. Dolores wasn't pleased to see him because every time he looked for her, it was never anything good. She asked if he had found another unlucky dragon's nest. He told her to relax. There were no dragons this time. He explained that it was just in the main city, and that he wouldn't go anywhere else. She was suspicious. "What danger could it be in the main city?" she asked. "Do you want me to beat up a lord or something?" He told her it wasn't that serious. He just wanted her to guard his property in the West District for one day, starting at midnight. He offered the same pay. She found it suspicious that it was that simple. He tried to sweet-talk her, saying they had been friends for a long time now. Dolores reluctantly agreed. He told her not to be late. Toad sarcastically congratulated him for tricking someone again. Xiao played dumb, saying it wasn't a trick, and that it was for Dolores' own good too. He decided to use the remaining time to level up once more, and get fully ready for the strange invasion. Meanwhile, on the forum, people discussed how Xiao had killed a player 5 times in a row at the respawn point, causing real-life death. Since he wielded such terrifying power, many believed he could get away with anything. Some argued that it was trampling on human life, stating that Apocalypse shouldn't be a place where players did whatever they pleased. They suggested supporting identity verification in-game. Xie read this and assumed they were making noise just to expose his identity. He found it childish and decided to rest, knowing that night might be a long one. He lay on his bed. Many players began entering the game, confused because they hadn't slept yet, were already logged in. They grew alarmed at this forced entry. They couldn't log out either. One person muttered that as long as the monsters didn't enter the village, everything would be fine. Xiao praised Dolores for being punctual. She yawned as if still sleepy, replying that the city was quiet at that hour. It made her think he had called her just to chat. "Don't be impatient," he said. "Soon, all the shops in the West District will be in your hands." Dolores assured him that as long as she was there, not a single tile or stone would be lost. He replied that her presence alone put him at ease. Lightning struck. Xiao immediately requested that she cast a buff. She was confused. What was happening? The sky ripped open, and several monsters emerged. It was the start of the strange invasion. Many of the monsters were winged. The guards announced the invasion, declaring the whole city under level 1 alert. No one was allowed to leave. Mages were called to the walls, while others evacuated the people. Chaos erupted as everyone ran. Dolores asked Xiao how he had predicted the strange invasion. She stated that the current level of the creatures didn't worry her, but there was a chance their levels would rise. "Believe in yourself," he replied. "You're a divine-level sorceress." Then, she saw it. A level 100 boss, Lord class. She realized she had fallen into his trap again.
"Every time you look for me, it's never something easy," she whined.
He reminded her that she had promised to protect every brick and tile of his West District. With a furious glare, she attacked the monster using 5 heavenly lightnings. The monster collapsed instantly. Xiao was impressed. She had taken out a Lord-class boss with just 1 strike. "Do you think I'm your puppet?" she snapped. Another large monster appeared. She noticed more and more were coming. Now, even flying elite bosses. "Stop staring and help out," she yelled. She summoned Gray. "It's your turn," he said. The monsters were so humongous that the humans looked like ants. The mages and the guards on the wall tried their best to hold them off. Meanwhile, Gray breathed fire on a monster and instantly killed it, despite it being a strange elite-level boss. She reminded Gray to be more careful because another shop had just been destroyed. He saw that a wave was coming, so he ordered it to move fast. The system screen notified him that he had killed an elite-level boss and a normal boss. The notifications about killing the bosses continued, and he was pleased with it because, just as he had expected, Killing the bosses was the fastest way to level up. Xiao told Dolores that he was counting on her to protect the West District while he and Gray hunted more bosses. She got annoyed with this brat, who must have thought she had 3 heads and 6 arms. She yelled that he should pay more, but it was not a problem for Xiao. While Gray attacked the monsters, Xiao inspected the loot. He saw that the monsters had even dropped an epic grade gear. He picked up the Devourer's ring and was pleased with it. Meanwhile, outside Windleaf City, a large bipedal reptile monster spat purple flames. The players scattered, trying to stay alive, while some were fueled by anger and determined to take those monsters down. The monster tried to claw a player, but the player defended himself with a shield. He told their boss Qingfang that he couldn't hold on any longer. Qingfang instructed them to look for a chance to escape since the bosses were too strong and they were no match for them. The tank urged them to go quickly, as he could only distract the monster for 5 seconds. He was pushed back and dropped his shield but kept telling them not to worry about him. A woman caught him when he fell and tried to wake him up. Qingfang felt that there was no hope. They all started to think they were going to die there. Unexpectedly, the monster was hit with a fireball on its back. Qingfang was impressed that it had been taken down with just a single strike. He saw the attacker. It was a baby dragon. Gray roared loudly. Once the monsters were stunned, he breathed fire on them. They were fascinated by how strong the baby dragon was. Storm felt like his prayers had been heard. Xiao informed Gray that there were more boss monsters on the side. Those players immediately recognized Xiao. Qingfang chased after him. Xiao asked what they needed. Qingfang thanked him for saving them and promised that if he ever needed something, they would do anything, even if their lives were at risk. Xiao told them not to worry about it since he was just passing through. Then, he informed them that the West District was relatively safer now, and that if they didn't want to keep hunting bosses, they could head there. When he left, they gossiped among themselves about how cool he was. Storm even said that if he were a woman, he'd want a kid with him. Qingfang told them to stop the chit-chat and pick up the gear and items because they would head to the West District. Gray attacked another monster, but Xiao told it that killing the normal monsters was just a waste of time. He encouraged it to go to the city gates, because that was where the real battlefield of the strange invasion was. The city was in flames. Qingfang's party arrived and confirmed what Xiao had said. It was relatively safer there. But they couldn't help but wonder why Xiao was patrolling outside the city. They speculated that he was doing so to level up. They saw him level up again. He was now at level 35. It was shocking for the other players, because he had been only level 31 the day before. It made them wonder how many bosses he had to kill to progress that fast. Then, they saw something like a flaming cannonball, which came from the direction of the main city gate. It was about to crash into the city. Xiao arrived at the main gates and couldn't help but think a massacre had happened there. A skeleton king appeared. It was a level 100 Lord-class boss, so he knew it would be tough on his own. The guard informed Lord Ador that the wall at the main gate had been completely destroyed, and the archers in the squad couldn't hold out. Plus, their healers were overwhelmed. Basically, they couldn't take it anymore. They asked if they should abandon the front lines and fall back to the rear, and Ador ordered them to prepare to retreat. Out of the blue, lightning struck. They felt hopeful when they saw a divine-level expert had stepped in, which boosted their morale to attack. Dolores was called by this brat in a panic, and upon seeing the monster, she knew he wanted her to kill that level 100 Lord boss. Xiao chuckled and commented that she was sharp, then instructed her to help him get close to it so he could kill it. She pointed out that it was a strange Lord-class boss, and that even she wouldn't dare to say that, but Xiao replied that he was serious. She agreed to send him there, first giving him some buffs. He suggested that she clear a path for him so he could face it head-on. She saw his guts and agreed. She struck the monster, and several monsters were stunned at once before she yelled at him to go. Xiao rushed forward, telling her she was awesome as always. Ador told Dolores that with her help, the city would be safe. But she told him that was enough talk, and he should take his men to defend the north side, leaving that area to her, and they counted on her. Then a guard reported to Ador that a level 30-something Tamer was trying to attack the Lord boss. But Ador told them not to worry and to follow Dolores' orders to fall back to the north zone. Now Dolores and Xiao stood in front of the gigantic skeleton, and it was all up to Xiao. Toad told him that if he died, he shouldn't drag him with him, and that he didn't even plan to pick up Xiao's corpse. But Xiao assured him he wouldn't die. It was the beginning of the hunting hour. The Skeleton King moved and attacked Dolores. She put up a barrier to defend herself while telling the brat to move already. He told her to calm down and just watch as he took out the emblem and activated Brutal Massacre, releasing a laser beam directly at the Skeleton King. It was a brutal execution that led to its instant death, its bones disassembling. Xiao was happy he had done it, and Toad couldn't believe the Lord-class boss was taken down in one hit by the brat. That was followed by a world announcement that Knight Xiao had successfully killed a level 100 Lord-class boss, achieving the first Lord-class boss kill. His reputation increased by 1,000, his attribute points by 200, and his Great Xia Nation War points by 1. The players never imagined it was possible. Qingfong realized he must have left the city earlier to slay the boss, and Storm was so amazed he wanted to be Xiao's disciple. Qingfong expressed that he wanted to be one too. But Xiao doesn't just accept anyone. The woman in their party had made up her mind to create a fan club for the great Knight Xiao. Xiao collected the loot, which included a divine protector's shield, epic grade, blazing stones that could be used as material, and a Starler staff, another epic grade item. Just as he expected, the rewards were on a different level compared to other monsters. He asked Toad if he found something good, and Toad replied that it was an artifact. Xiao told him he was lucky since it was something nice, the frenzied horn of the destroyer. Xiai stated that the strange invasion was even better than completing a legendary level quest, and they saw the strange monsters were retreating as everyone celebrated surviving. Meanwhile, inside a manor, a guard asked the governor if he had awakened. The man asked the guard to help him up and instructed that no matter what happened, they shouldn't let those strange creatures into the city. The guard reported that it had been an hour since the invasion ended, and the governor couldn't believe it was already over. The guard reported that while the king was unconscious, with the help of Xiao and Dolores, the invasion was repulsed, and the city was now undergoing repairs. He expressed that he never expected, besides Dolores, there would be another outstanding talent saving Windleaf City at such a critical time. He instructed Turn to make arrangements because he wanted to meet this person and express his gratitude, and Turn replied he would arrange it right away. With Lady Sophia on his side, he invited Xiao and Dolores inside his home, where he expressed his gratitude for their brave assistance. He told them that if it hadn't been for them, they didn't know if Windleaf City would have survived the calamity, and on behalf of all the citizens, he offered his sincerest gratitude. Lady Sophia uttered that Xiao had once again performed another miracle, to which Dolores replied that he was too kind, clarifying that it was mainly Xiao who took down the Lord-level boss. Consequently, Xiao gained +20 favorability with Aaron, the respect and recognition of the governor of Windleaf City, and obtained the title Friend of Windleaf. Sia replied that it wasn't a big deal, and then went straight to the point. Dolores excused herself as she needed to return to the Supreme Temple to handle some matters, and the governor told her to be careful. Lady Sophia then asked the governor if he needed something from her, and he replied that half of Windleaf was destroyed. The once prosperous East District was in ruins, and most of the intact buildings were in the West District. So he wanted to ask if she could spare some properties in the area. She replied that she couldn't make the decision because, at that moment, most of the properties in the West District were under Xiao's name. The governor, who didn't expect him to be the owner of the West District, asked him if he would consider transferring some of the properties. She replied that as long as he got a fair price, he had no problem, and Toad knew this brat was going to cash in. The governor asked for his price and stated he would immediately have the bank prepare gold coins for him. Since the governor was straightforward, Xiao also replied in the same way, expressing that he would just keep a few large shops at the corners and transfer the rest to him, which the governor thanked him for. Lady Sophia then expressed that there was something she needed support with, and he told her to tell him. She stated that the incident had been reported to the royal family, and Xiao's bravery had been witnessed by all citizens, so she decided to request that the royal family grant Xiao a noble title. Deep inside, Xiao thought it was good news, and Toad told him that he was really lucky. The governor replied that he supported that decision, and she asked Xiao what he thought of it. Deep inside, the governor was surprised that the Duchess had such an appreciation for the young man, and he speculated that something was between them. She kissed her hand and thanked her, also thanking the governor, who replied that it was what he deserved for saving the city, and admitted that he should be the one thanking him on behalf of Windleaf City. Concurrently, at Yanren's home, she was yelling at Hong to stop joking around. She was on her phone, worried, and yelling at him that if he kept it up, She was going to get angry, as she begged him not to die while watching him on her phone lying on the ground and bleeding. She called him useless because she had given him the gear she bought with all her savings, and he still couldn't defeat one strange monster. She was lost on what to do now, and decided to look for Xiao, realizing that she was wrong to trust that stupid Hong and concluding that he was the one who led her astray. Otherwise, Xiao wouldn't be like that to her. Now she understands that Xiao is the one who best treated her in the world. So she decided to find him because she thought he deeply loves her, and that if she sincerely apologizes, she is certain that they can go back to how things were. She was determined that this time, no matter what he wants, she will give it to him. Certain that as long as she lowers her head, he'd forgive her. So she left her house at once to go find him. Back in the game, the players planned that as soon as they log in, they'll find a way to transfer to Windleaf City, thinking that other areas are dangerous and only Xiao can guarantee their safety. One person planned that too and suggested that they form a party together, believing that paying a high price for a city transfer scroll was worth it as the bidding for a house started. Xiao was confused as to why there were so many people suddenly coming to Windleaf City, and knowing it was late to go for challenges, he planned to forge his equipment first. The shopkeeper asked him what he needed, and he replied that he was there to forge and identify some equipment. The shopkeeper replied that it would be an honor to serve him, but unfortunately his shop was destroyed. So Xiao suggested that he come with him, and he will lend him a forge and identification device. Xiao invited him in, and when the shopkeeper asked what that place was, he replied that he would find out inside. He was surprised to see a top-tier forge, not expecting that there would be a luxurious forge in the West District, and there was even identification equipment too. He questioned who owned the shop, and Xiao replied that if he wants, he can be the owner. And as for the profit mode, it can be the same as he had before, revealing that it's his property and has been vacant for a while now, and the shopkeeper happens to be there. The shopkeeper was surprised, and replied that he's deeply honored, especially now that so many identifiers are unemployed in Windleaf City, and he was truly grateful that Xiao took him in. Xiao replied that there's no need to thank him and what matters is the work, suggesting they start identifying the equipment as he showed him the first item. The shopkeeper was confused that an artifact needs identification, explaining that even with the most advanced identification devices they have, he can't say that he'll be able to identify the artifact. Xiao urged him to still try, and since Xiao trusts him, he decided to give it his all. Just as he expected, the identification failed, and when Xiao asked if it was that difficult, he replied yes, since no one has ever successfully identified an artifact before, and apologized that he couldn't help. Xiao realized that it's complicated, and decided to move on to identifying the other 3 epic grade items, to which the shopkeeper replied that epic grade ones are not a problem. Xiao then went to the governor's place and saw that a guard blocked a man, requesting that he leave, since the governor was busy. But when Xiao asked if the governor was in, he was treated differently and was led inside. The mayor greets the young man and asks if anything is wrong, since he arrived so late without warning. The young man explains that he wants to find a lost race that is rumored to have disappeared hundreds of years ago, a race whose location on the continent is unknown to anyone. The mayor replies that searching for them is like finding a needle in a haystack, but the young man simply requests that a reward be posted for information about the whereabouts of this race. Ye Xiao is willing to offer 5 million gold coins for reliable information. Considering this a generous reward, the mayor agrees to announce it throughout the city immediately. The next day, all players receive a mass message informing them that the player Night Xiao has become the first in history to pass the Abyss trials at level 40. Ye Xiao, at the Abyss level location to pass the trial, is attacked by a huge monster called the Abyss Conductor. The enormous monster lets out a deafening roar and furiously unleashes a powerful blow with its clawed paw. The young man instantly uses an energy shield, reflecting the attack and protecting himself from fatal damage. At that moment, Little Gray counterattacks the monster with powerful streams of fire. Toad, watching the defeated monster, notes that only the presence of a shield made of coins saved them from death. The boy looks happily at the dragon fluttering above him, thinking that thanks to the blessing of the dragon god, his attributes are growing at a furious pace. The reward turns out to be another incomprehensible fragment, the 4th one. The young man does not understand what it is for or how to use it correctly in the game. He then receives a message to urgently report to the mayor regarding the missing race of gnomes, while other players immediately rush to the monster's corpse to claim the remaining rewards and valuable items. The young man arrives at the mayor's palace, A knight is ready to share important information obtained while patrolling the city's outskirts. The knight reports that a group of unusual short people has appeared in the dense forest outside the city. Perhaps this is the same lost race. The young man asks if these are really gnomes. The knight confirms that during the invasion of anomalous creatures, he accidentally took refuge in that forest and discovered them there. The young man prepares to go into the forest at once. The knight offers a support squad, but Ye Xiao decides to handle it alone. In the forest near the city, a group of gnomes are busy with their own affairs, unaware that they are being watched. Two players observe them from cover. One wants to capture a gnome alive to receive the reward of 5 million gold coins from the great night hunter. One of the gnomes notices a suspicious noise in the bushes, and without alerting the others, looks carefully toward the people, trying to discern the source of the sound in the thicket. The next moment, a huge warhammer flies toward the players, dealing 80 points of damage to them. One player cheerfully declares that it was a very weak blow. A second later, a second hammer flies at them, inflicting tens of thousands of damage. The players are shocked. They now consider these gnomes to be abnormal and dangerous opponents, capable of killing even experienced warriors with one blow. Meanwhile, the dwarves loudly curse the humans for their treachery and express disgust at their presence. One dwarf reminds the others that he warned them not to travel through human territories, as they did not want to become objects of curiosity. The dwarves prepare to leave the dangerous place as quickly as possible. Just then, a knight appears with Ye Xiao at the edge of the forest. The players hiding in ambush notice Ye Xiao and anticipate an interesting show of battle with the dwarves. The knight points toward the clearing. Ye Xiao prepares to approach the dwarves to assess their strength. The knight warns him to be careful since gnomes have hot tempers and deal monstrous damage capable of killing with one blow. The knight declares that his task is complete, and from now on, the young man will handle the negotiations or the fight as he sees fit. The gnomes are indignant. One is ready to strike the young man with his hammer for his insolence, but his comrade stops him, noting that the young man looks unusual and pleasant to observe. The second dwarf states that he no longer wants to kill him, because he senses something unusual emanating from this man, something that distinguishes him from the rest of the human race. They smell an aroma coming from Ye Xiao, a very pleasant scent of a divine artifact, and not just one, but several items of enormous power and rarity. The dwarf continues to admire the aroma, which is so rich that the items on his person seem to be of an even higher level than divine artifacts. The second dwarf detects another scent, but cannot recall what it is. After a moment, he loudly exclaims that it is the scent of a deity's blessing. The gnomes continue to examine the boy from all sides. They agree that his aura and spiritual power are simply incredible for an ordinary person of his age. They assume that the boy has received the blessing of a high-ranking god because his aura feels amazingly powerful and unusual. The dwarves are confident that it is precisely thanks to this gift that his spiritual strength significantly exceeds the capabilities of mere mortal warriors. The hunters watch Ye Xiao from cover and wonder why they haven't fought yet, since for some reason they are killed immediately, and the night hunter seems to be on a stroll. The girl believes that double standards only exist in the real world. But who would have thought that even the Gnome King, with an honest look, would turn out to be such a two-faced bastard? Meanwhile, the dwarves show interest in the guy's personality and his goals. Ye Xiao explains that he came here to ask for help in an important matter that requires their participation. They think the guy needs to forge artifacts and improve his equipment, but Ye Xiao says he doesn't need that. He wants to find the lost temple of the ancient gods. The gnomes don't understand why he needs this. The guy asks them not to worry. He has no evil intentions. He just needs the help of a deity to complete the task of changing his profession. The temple holds special significance to the dwarven people, and its location is not revealed to outsiders without proof of trust. Ye Xiao reports that he has an artifact and asks for help in identifying it. Since the local blacksmith was powerless, the dwarves agree to examine the item, considering themselves unsurpassed masters and the aforementioned blacksmiths unworthy of attention. One of the dwarves immediately determines that the artifact was not hand-forged and is of unknown divine origin. It shows no traces of forging, and its quality is so high that after contact with a magical element, it itself became an artifact. The dwarves ask how the guy got the artifact, because it is the horn of the god of destruction, which fell off after the death of the ancient deity. Ye Xiao says he killed a highly abnormal invasion boss yesterday and received this item as a reward. The dwarves agree to examine the artifact, but warn him that the price will be high, and they are not sure whether he will be able to pay. The toad grumbles discontentedly, believing that they want to deceive the guy and extort money. Taking advantage of his need for help, the dwarf shows 5 fingers. The guy asks if the job really costs only 5 gold coins. The man gives the boy a stern look and says that the price will be 500,000 gold coins, and not 5 as the young man naively thought. The guy starts bargaining. He says that with this money he can buy 50 bags of rice, and he has never seen so much money in his life. The dwarves think for a moment, then say that the price will be at least 300,000 gold coins. And if that is too much, then he can look for other specialists on the continent. Ye Xiao's announcement shocks the dwarves. If the identification is successful, he will pay each master 1,000,000 gold coins. The guy gives them 100,000 gold pieces as an advance, and promises to deliver food to keep them strong while they work. He receives 25 points of favor with the dwarves, and the masters demand that he immediately bring the artifact to begin the process. After an hour of intense work, the master announces that the identification is complete, and the artifact has been enhanced with ancient techniques. Ye Xiao holds the upgraded horn of the god of destruction, which increased his attack power by 55%. The gnome proudly confirms the completion of the work, and demands the promised reward for the work of high-class craftsmen. The guy assures that everything will be fine with the payment, and asks the dwarves to go with him to the main city of Fun to receive a reward. The dwarves are wary, but Ye Xiao promises to throw a feast with plenty of food, and pay them for identifying new artifacts. Passers-by turn around and look in surprise toward the city's main gates. Watching the unusual procession of creatures entering the city, they do not understand at all why the Night Hunter did not fight the dwarves, and even brought them with him to the city as honored guests and allies. The knight is puzzled but hopes to receive rare equipment now that peace with the dwarves has become possible. The dwarves enjoy the feast, praise the treats, and admit that they have never eaten anything more delicious in their lives. The knight watches them closely and asks everyone to enjoy the meal. All expenses today are at Mr. Ye Xiao's expense. The guy turns to Thor, reminding him of the temple and asking him to say where to look for it, since the contract has been fulfilled. The gnome hands over the item and says that it is a temple detector passed down from generation to generation, and that if you approach a fire temple, it will give a signal to the owner. And yet he persistently advises the guy to abandon this idea, and not risk his life for the sake of some task to change profession. Thor begins to tell that this temple is inhabited by an incredibly terrible creature capable of killing any mortal who dares to approach the sacred place of the fire gods.